like to open this Washington Unified School District Regular Board of Education meeting for August 10th, 2017. Let the record reflect that all board trustees are present. And we will do our Pledge of Allegiance. Ray Tolbert, will you please lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. All right, the announcements of action taken in closed session. We had E1, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal Release. Direction was given. And that takes us to the approval of the agenda. I do have one change. We're going to table item O3, which is the program update on special education services. So we're going to table that for this meeting. Are there any other changes?
I'm also going to ask to pull item N3 for individual vote
Okay,
on the consent agenda.
perfect. So N3 we will vote on separately. Okay. Oh, sorry. And on approval of agenda, I have Don Stoffer. Thank you, sorry.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to ask you to pull N6, if you would, please. Just for comments. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
great. We'll
yes.
pull N6. Thank you. For a vote on separately. Okay. Okay. So with that, can I get approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
So motion was made by Vice President Pizzotti, was seconded by Board Trustee Alcala, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. All right, that takes us to communication and celebrations. We have the Washington Unified School District promotional video project, and Yorgos Kazanis, our Administrator of Communication and Community Outreach.
Well, good evening, trustees. This evening, we've got actually a really fun and exciting project to unveil to you. It's something that we were working on together with a videographer late last spring. Obviously, with our work in communication, community outreach, our big goal is to market the district in a manner that shows us as a district that has extraordinary possibilities for students in our community. Oftentimes, we try to find different tools and strategies that'll allow us to build that identity within the community and within the region. But what really is the best way to do that is allow our students and our teachers and our staff to do all that talking for us. So we got together with a videographer last year, and we actually visited all of our school sites, going into classrooms and visiting different programs and activities going on the school sites. And we were able to capture that in about a 2.5 minute promotional video. And it's really going to be a fun tool that we're going to share with you today. It's something that we're going to use tomorrow at the new teacher orientation day, and as well as next week for the welcome back breakfast. But also anytime we do meet with other community partners, such as the chamber, the city, anyone that we're working with in the region, whether it's other universities in the area, and they're wondering what we have to offer. All we have to do at this point is just show them this video, and it's a fun way for them to connect and actually see what our students and our staff are working on. So with that, Ashley will push the play button.
We pick up kids in the morning from the school bus stops or even at their houses. We transport them to school safely.
When they come to school, they have a nice environment, clean environment, and safe environment.
West Sacramento is a great place.
to work, live, and go to school. Washington Unified School District really is the gateway to extraordinary possibilities.
Our experience in Washington Unified has been great. We've had great teachers, they've been very involved, supportive of our kids. The administration is very available and very helpful.
I've been really impressed with Washington Unified over the years. It's really grown and changed. They've been bringing new programs to our local campuses at all levels and making us more competitive in the region.
So one of the things that our students are able to leave with are strong technology skills. We teach them how to work collaboratively using Google Slides or Google Docs. We have them work with Google Forms, take surveys or tests with Google Forms as well.
We do a lot of fun things at school, like technology. We do reports. I'm learning about Nancy Hart, and we're supposed to present them on Thursday in front of the whole class.
Didn't really need to do a lot to this photo because it kind of had the color I was looking for. So I just brought up the brightness a little bit. I think everyone should be learning this in school. It's a great skill to have. You can, go and take this skill and make a business out of it.
Port 6 and Port 7.
I've always liked computers. I've always liked how computers work, and I just thought that this would be a great way to introduce me into computer engineering or just general engineering.
We really believe in meeting students where they're at and taking them to the next level through a variety of unique programs and pathways.
Our goal is to get our spring crop planted.
Future Farmers of America, STEM, MESA.
I think that it's really interesting learning about fresh foods and healthy ways to eat and live.
We get a lot of organic fruits and vegetables from locally right here in West Sacramento. We are the farm to fork capital of the world right here, so we take advantage of that.
Our students have many work-based learning options, which allow them to work with professionals from the industry. They might have guest speakers come into their classroom, attend field trips, participate in mentoring activities or internships.
Washington Unified is the most innovative district that I've come across. They've started this middle college high school. It's Washington Middle College High School. And the idea is that students can take classes at the local college at the same time that they're enrolled here. They get dual enrollment credit.
It's a great environment for me. There's learning, there's activities, there's physical exercise, there's everything that you need to be healthy and will have a good education.
One of our core beliefs in Washington Unified is that education is the great equalizer. We provide multiple opportunities for students to empower themselves with learning, whether it's through STEM or a dual immersion program, through robotics, through after-school clubs and activities, or through the professional learning that our staff receives in order to help all students be the best they can be.
So that was our project in the late spring. As you can see, the fun part of my job is that I get to do all of the bragging for all the great things that are happening in our district. The difficult part is trying to fit everything into a 2 to 3 minute video, but the intention with this is to really kind of fly by and scratch at the surface and really try to catch people's attention and get them to look at West Sacramento in a different way. And I think we've accomplished that in the video, and it's something that we hope to actually continue and do more fun things like this that'll actually showcase our kids and our schools.
Great job.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah, wonderful, thank you. When will you be posting that or sharing that on the site for us to maybe be able to share?
So we're hoping to do the first real unveiling. Well, the first was tonight, but the real unveiling is going to be tomorrow during the new teacher orientation. We have our welcome back breakfast for our classified and certificated employees on Monday and Tuesday of next week. And it was pretty much at the start of next week is when it'll appear on our homepage.
Perfect.
And just kind of an ongoing thought is to maybe build videos for each school site, kind of showcasing each school more specifically. So the theme would be, if we take Westfield, for example, this is what it means to be a wildcat kind of a video, right? And we really focus in on the things that are going on at that specific campus.
Okay.
So just different ways that we can kind of get out there and market what we're doing here, so.
Great, great. I'm excited to share it. Thanks. All right, that takes us to our association reports. We have WTA, Don Stoffer.
Hello again. I want to remind you that tomorrow is our new teacher orientation. It will be at Bright this year. And again, the festivities get underway around 8 o'clock, especially if you want to go on the tour which I understand is going to be something special this year. So even if you've been before, I think there's something new and different that's going to happen. And in any case, would love to see you there and love to see you meet the new teachers for the year. I'd like to thank the districts for last week's administrative advance workshop. I think it sends a really powerful message to everyone who works within this district that we're all together, and to succeed, that all of us have to be a part of it. Again, much appreciated. And then, of course, this upcoming Monday is our first official day back, and this will be presumably at River City, as usual. And I would love to see you there, and to see everyone come back for our brand new year. Looks like it's going to be a fun time. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you tell us what time, do you know what time the lunch is tomorrow? That sometimes is a nice time to stop by.
I think it's 11:45, 12 in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Depends on how long some people talk.
All right. That's what time I plan to stop by. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And so Ray Tolbert for our CSEA report.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Garagos, great video. Great video, by the way.
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah, and that's what we're all here for. So yeah, it makes everybody feel good to be a part of that. Thank you. Oh, and Dawn, I'm driving tomorrow morning. The bus. Yeah. All right, and communications between everyone still remains strong, very positive. Growth is good. All I got to do is say thumbs up, and welcome back, everybody.
Great. Thank you so much, and welcome back to you, too. Okay, so now we have our public comments. I'm going to read. Okay. I'm going to read our public comment piece here. At this time, members of the public may address the board on topics that are under the jurisdiction of the board and are not on the agenda. Although the board, by law, may not take action at this meeting, the board may limit the total time for public input on any topic to 20 minutes unless it chooses to waive the item limit for a particular item. Individual speakers may be limited to 3 minutes to comment on any topic. Public comments consisting of individual charges, complaints, or derogatory remarks about any district employee are requested to be submitted in writing to the administration in accordance with the district's complaint procedure process. We do recognize that for a lot of people commenting before the board and the audience and the people watching at home, it can be a nerve-wracking experience. So to try to make this as easy as possible, we ask that there not be applause we can applause for videos like that, but no booing or catcalling or demonstrations to maintain a civil discourse here. And then if you have comments later for one of the agenda items, we ask that you fill out the blue slip on the side and give it to staff before the end of the staff report. Okay, and so without any further ado for public comment, first we have Eric Westberg.
Good evening, Sarah. Oh, sorry, Board President Kirby Gonzalez and trustees. My name is Eric Westberg. I'm the assistant principal at Westmore Oaks. Tonight, I would like to speak in support of Dr. Mary Hopewell, who appears on the agenda later this evening. I'm going to speak for myself and also for one of my teachers on staff who cannot be here this evening. I first met Dr. Mary Hopewell in January of 2016, which was my first month at Westmore Oaks. I had just become a school administrator after a 21-year teaching career. I could not have asked for a better mentor and coach than Dr. Hopewell to begin my administrative career. During the past 1.5 years, I have learned so much from Mary. She has helped me strengthen my educational knowledge and overall leadership skills, specifically in the areas of communication, decision-making, and developing positive relationships with students, families, staff members, and colleagues. Dr. Hopewell has been a positive influence on Westmore Oaks. I have seen firsthand the culture and climate grow positively at our school during Mary's tenure. She has developed our teacher leaders who comprise our site's leadership team, and I sincerely hope that my school and district will continue to benefit from Dr. Hopewell's expertise. I'm also going to read a statement from Jennifer Garcia, who is a 7th and 8th grade science teacher at Westmore Oaks, and she's also a member of the school leadership team. I'm sorry I cannot be here tonight in person to express my gratitude and appreciation for Dr. Mary Hopewell. Westmore Oaks was in a difficult period of transition when we first met Dr. Hopewell. She brought stability and trust to our campus when we needed it most. Our leadership team has blossomed under Dr. Hopewell's training and guidance. Our site has benefited greatly from her professional development sessions focusing on leadership and professional learning communities. She has also provided fabulous coaching for our administrators. I have personally grown from her positive guidance and suggestions. I hope that Westmore Oaks will continue to benefit from more time with Dr. Hopewell. Any site or administrator would be very lucky to have her knowledge and coaching on hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming and sharing. Danielle Radwin.
Hi, everybody. My name is Danielle Radwin. I will be starting my 3rd year at Westmore Oaks this year. I owe a lot to Mary Hopewell. The reason I stand here today as a 3rd-year teacher, looking forward to a long career at Washington Unified, is because of her great work at our school. 2 years ago, I started my 1st year at Westmore Oaks. I knew that my 1st year was going to be difficult, but I had no idea what I was walking into at Westmore Oaks. When I started, Westmore Oaks was struggling to survive. The teachers and staff were struggling with the student body, focused on anything and everything that was happening in their own lives beside their learning. Frayed connections from the political battles from the year before, and doing their jobs without the leadership of a permanent principal. Everybody kept their heads down in the hallways and spoke only to a few trusted coworkers. And as a 1st-year teacher, I followed their lead. I kept my head down, and I spoke to others only when needed to be. Isolated, I made the decision to finish out my 1st year, and I thought that I wasn't going to be a teacher after that year. Partway through my 1st year, a change began at Westmore Oaks. Mary Hopewell came to our campus, and she started professional development that changed the culture of our school. She taught us to recognize difficult behaviors instead of what the behaviors that the people were showing. She taught us how to work together to make progress on our goals. She encouraged us to take charge of our professional lives and protect what is good for our school. By the end of my 1st year, things had already started turning around. People started saying hello to each other in the hallways. I started meeting other people and connecting with others at my school site. We supported each other in our personal and professional growth. We started working as a team. We became a community, and I returned to my 2nd year because of the great people working for something greater than ourselves at Westmore Oaks. Because of the changes that Mary Hopewell started, our school is unrecognizable from my very 1st year in Washington Unified. I am a teacher here because of her great work. Not only did she light a spark that created a community that I am proud to be a part of, she created it with skill and with purpose. Washington Unified is stronger with Mary Hopewell. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Stacy Faulkner.
Good evening, President Kirby Gonzalez, trustees, cabinet, and district staff. My name is Stacy Faulkner, and I'm the principal of Westmore Oaks, the proud principal of Westmore Oaks. I'm here to share some feedback and perspective regarding N9, the ICA between L&M Consulting for Dr. Mary Hopewell in the district. But before I share my own perspective and feedback regarding Dr. Hopewell's amazing impact on myself and my staff and my site, I'd also like to share a letter written by one of our 4th grade teachers who couldn't be with us tonight. She writes, "Hello, my name is Barbara Butler, and I've been a teacher at Westmore Oaks for 15 years. I felt compelled to write this letter voicing my absolute respect and admiration for Mary Hopewell and the work that she has done and the work I hope she can continue to do for our school. 2 years ago, Dr. Hopewell came to Westmore Oaks to help us rebuild our campus community. Our school had devolved from a blue ribbon distinguished school to a school and program improvement. Our staff was not cohesive, had no common vision, and was tired from multiple administrative changes. Dr. Hopewell worked with our leadership team to help build communication skills and professional respect, and in less than a year, she was able to turn around our school climate. Through workshops and her own personal style and integrity, she modeled for our leadership team a new way of making positive changes at Westmore Oaks. Last year, she continued her efforts at Westmore Oaks. She worked extensively with Stacy Falconer, that's me, our new principal, and Mr. Eric Westberg, our vice principal, as well as our evolving leadership team. She helped put into action the lessons that she had taught the year before, and with each passing day, our staff became more positive, better able to communicate with each other, and more focused on students. With a stable and effective administrative team, Ms. Falconer and Mr. Westberg, finally in place, she was able to continue to guide us in the right direction. We came a long way last year. However, there is still work to be done. Westmore Oaks continues to need Dr. Hopewell's expertise and guidance, as we have made great gains, and we now need a steady hand to transition our entire staff into positive, respectful, and student-oriented collaboration. My greatest fear is that we as a staff might slip back into old habits, patterns of behavior, and thought. I truly believe Dr. Hopewell has the ability to push our campus to the next level. With the partnership of Ms. Falconer, Mr. Westberg, and Dr. Hopewell, I know we can solidify norms of respect, thoughtfulness, and integrity at Westmore Oaks. So please renew Dr. Hopewell's contract. Our staff, and by extension our students, need the continued incredible guidance that she has given us. Thank you, Barbara Butler. For myself, what I've come to learn is that in order to develop leaders on our campuses, our own leadership skills and abilities have to be challenged regularly. And this is what makes Dr. Hopewell such a valuable resource to myself and my staff. She's not just a program. She's not a program. She's not static. She's not dependent upon program steps and rules and stale curricula. She's not a motivational speaker who blows in, gives kisses. She is a coach who has helped Mr. Westberg and I transition from leaders who direct, implement, and enforce to leaders who facilitate staff engagement and participation and ownership of our school community and vision. With this contract, her services and expertise would reach even more schools and educational leaders in our district, and the positive effect it will have on culture and climate of Washington Unified will be immense. She will develop the leadership skills that our new district brand deserves. So I urge you to approve her contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and for sharing. And our last public comment is Nikiba Gregory, who I don't see for public comment. Okay. So we'll hold that one to the side. Okay. I do want to thank you for coming, and I want to thank Superintendent Linda Luna for her recommendation when we made that decision to approve Dr. Hopewell in the beginning. And it feels so good to make decisions here in the boardroom and then to hear the progress that's made. And thank you for all that you do. Thank you. Okay, so that takes us past our public comments, and now we have board and superintendent comments. Board Trustee Wong, would you like to go?
Sure. I don't have a lot to update folks on, but I was able to experience the Yolo County Children's Alliance preschool experience with Assistant Superintendent Amber Lee, and that was a fun time, spending some time with her and seeing her in action, kind of seeing the wheels turning about kind of collaboratives that we might be having for our littles. So that was really exciting, and I was able to actually experience what I call the great backpack giveaway that our wonderful student services folks helped organize with others at Teen Calling Center. And I mean, people you say that Ellie Leon was kind of the heart of it all, and she gave credit for her entire team of folks. So that was such an amazing event, and seeing everybody there was lovely. So that's all that I have to update folks on. I'm excited to see the orientation for new teachers tomorrow, so I'll be there for breakfast. Can't make the bus tour, but we'll be there tomorrow. And also just wanted to remind folks that there's also a health fair at Yolo County Children's Alliance and another backpack giveaway. That's it.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So Board Trustee Akala.
Oh, thank you. I only have one item. The Veterans of Foreign Wars is actually, they have an annual contest, and I'm hoping that our high school students will participate this year. It's there are two essays, actually. One is called The Patriot's Pen, America's Gift to My Generation. And the grand prize for that is $5,000. The next one is Voice of Democracy, American History, Our Hope for the Future. And that grand prize is $30,000. So that would be really fantastic. I have every confidence that we have incredible writers, very inspirational. We've heard them many times, you know, with poetry and all. Oh.
That's Siri. Siri's talking.
Pay no attention.
Siri's applying.
It's okay. So I'm hoping that they participate. I will give this to the superintendent, and just the deadline will be October 31st, 2017. But I have every confidence it would be great if one of our students won this competition, and it would certainly help when they go to college. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Board Trustee Cruz.
I don't have any committee updates, but I do want to give a shout out to the Link crew and the teaching staff at River City this week on Tuesday and Wednesday. Our freshmen attended River City, and I've always commended, especially the Link crew and the teachers that put it all together. It's a group of over 100 students, juniors and seniors, that are assigned to incoming freshmen, a couple of students, and take them under their wing for the whole year. They show them around the campus, they exchange phone numbers, and so the younger incoming freshmen, they have an upperclassmate to say that they know somebody, and they actually check on them throughout the year. My son actually got a text at midnight on Tuesday, said, "Sorry, I missed what's going on tomorrow." So I think it's really exciting that these incoming freshmen have some upperclassmates, especially on the large campus. And if you know West Sacramento, a lot of these students, they attend all of our elementary schools all over the city, and then they all end up at one high school. So I just want to give a shout out to that staff and the students, because they volunteer, and I think it's just an awesome program.
Great. Thank you. Board Vice President Pizzotti.
Thank you, President Kirby-Gonzalez. Let's see. So much has happened since the last time we met. Just recently, though, I was on the 2x2 committee. I think that was what was that, Monday? Yeah, what day was it? It was last Monday. Yeah, it was this week. Sorry, so much has passed. I'm foggied. 2x2 with the city. Trustee Kirby-Gonzalez and I were there. Unfortunately, you had to step out, but some things to report. The city has been awarded $40,000 for the Play Spaces grant from the National Parks and Recreation Association at Elkhorn Park. So it's nice that we'll be getting some funding to go into that play structure there. As a follow-up to our last 2x2 committee, where President Kirby-Gonzalez and I asked the city to look into the possibility of the school utilizing a small portion of Bridgeway Island Park to put a portable down so that we could expand the after-school care program because it's so impacted at that school. The city didn't have an update, a status update for us. We were reassured that doesn't necessarily mean they're not working on it, but just that they don't have an update for us at this time. Also, something that we brought up as an issue that we've heard some concerns about is with the college promise at Sac City, or through Sac City, is that people need to know you need to apply for that. You don't necessarily just get it by being a graduate of Washington Unified School District or being a River City graduate. You have to actually apply for that. I'll let you talk about the instance if you want later on. But there is no entitlement here. You actually have to apply for this. And there is no back payment for or reimbursement for if you miss it. So if you miss the application deadline, or you're not getting what you're hoping for. So it is very important that we make sure we tell our kids that are graduating about the college promise and that they do need to fill out the application for it. So, and then Trustee Wong and I met to go over some board policies and some CSB legislation as our part of our governance and policy committee. And we went over CSBA supported and opposed legislation that's up on their website, and then we were basically made it through halfway of their list. They must have over 1,000 bills that they're taking positions on. I don't know if it's 1,000, but it's pretty close. It's right on up there. Some of them were shocking when we went over the bills. We're like, why are you taking that position on this? Made it hard for us to understand. Others we totally fully supported. So we still haven't gone through the entire list. We haven't got to the entire list. We're still in the assembly bills. We haven't even made it to the Senate bills yet. So with that, I think that's all I have.
All right, I don't want to speak too much about the administrative advance because I am sure that Superintendent Luna will do that in her comments, but I was so honored to be able to stop by and hear some of the discussion that was going on in the room. It was the kind of situation where I just wish I could have pulled up a chair and stayed all day because there was such great energy. It was just a really special place to be. I took notes, as I do, as I sat there, and one of the things that I really appreciated was they talked a lot about, so this is our principals, this is our assistant superintendents, this is our directors, and each site also had 2 teachers as well in the room and some others as well. And so one thing they talked about was leading with HAT, humility, action, and trust. And I think that's an important thing for all of us to remember. So again, humility, action, and trust. And I liked this quote too because it was superhero theme, that it's not their job to be the hero, but it's their job to help support and create heroes. And so I really just appreciated being there and hearing the conversations and the dialogues. And it was a really great energy and an exciting energy that I hadn't seen before. And so it was great. In years past. I did miss the 2x2, unfortunately. I swung by at the beginning, but my husband was having surgery and it ran late. And so I had every intention of being there, but you can't control a doctor sometimes. So thank you for stepping in with that. One piece that was on there just as background was the trail project, because of getting access from the trail to the rec center can be challenging for people. And I have had a few people reach out to me about that. I don't know if others have too, but it is something to look at because there's not an easy way to get through. So for you to know as background in case somebody from the community comes to you as well. And then the Collins Teen Center, I unfortunately had just missed Trustee Wong, but it was just incredible. And to see all of our student service support folks there, all the outreach specialists there. And as I walked by, I said, thank you for giving up your time to be here to be here on this day. And they all said, of course we would be here. Of course we're here. And some had their kids with them too. And it was just a really great energy and just reminds us that people come to work because their heart is in it, right? And they were all there just pouring their hearts into that day. It was really special. And the kids were very excited and parents were excited. So they had some uniform giveaways and other pieces. The group that gives uniforms away, though, did tell me that there are a lot of retired teachers and that they go out to the school sites and help make sure that the closets are full and they can get uniforms. But they said, not every school uses, we feel like, what we're giving. And so that's something for us to remember as we think about, we do have a uniform policy right now. And so making sure that when people donate a uniform that they feel valued, that there is some enforcement going on there, because the last thing we want is for anybody to be donating and not feel needed. But they were very happy to be there and did a great job too. And those are all in terms of committee updates and those pieces. And I will be there tomorrow, so I'll miss you for breakfast, but I'll be by for lunch. And so thank you for that. And have a really wonderful start of the school year, since we will not have a meeting until after school started. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. Okay, before we do our superintendent comment, let's just do our last public comment for Nikiba Gregory.
Hello. Thank you for listening to me, President Sarah Kirby-Gonzalez, Vice President Pizzati, trustees, cabinet. I'm here coming straight from the Barnes Farmers Market. Yeah. We were giving out water and pencils and networking with the community and talking. And but the reason I'm here is that, you know, students are at the center of everything that we do. And that is something that all teachers are passionate about. And I know that you guys feel the same way. But there's another thing that we need to be really concerned about, and then that is our teachers. And so I'm here on behalf of one of our teachers. We have a teacher that I went through the credentials program with, and he's been teaching in our district for 17 years. And his son will be attending Bridgeway Island, and he has asked for AM kindergarten. He does not have any childcare. He doesn't have afternoon care. He's on a waiting list for a YMCA, and he doesn't know what to do because he's a teacher that needs to be at work on time and not have to worry about childcare issues. He really needs to be able to know that everything is handled, and the only thing he asked for is for his son to be able to be in AM kindergarten. That's the only thing. You know, and I think that it says a lot about a teacher that chooses to work and live in the community that they teach. And he's loyal. He's completely loyal, and he's been here 17 years, a great teacher. And I think that we should support our teachers who always put our students first. So I would like for there to be some kind of benefit that teachers in our community have that they are able to be seen as a priority when their children are going to our schools, that they should be able to have some kind of choice. Is it AM or PM kindergarten? So that's what I wanted to speak to. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All day kindergarten.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that to us. And we know very much that it is an issue for people, absolutely is. So thank you for this. Okay. So superintendent comments.
Good evening, President Kirby-Gonzalez, Board of Trustees, Cabinet and staff, and guests in the audience. This evening, I usually say I have a brief update. I actually have a pretty lengthy update today. And I realize that it's lengthy because there's been so many people that have done so much for our district during the summer months in order to have a successful start of a school year. There's so much planning and so much work, so much preparation that happens in the summer. And I just wanted to show some of the really great things that are happening that are changing the culture of our district, that are really shifting a very rigorous, robust learning and teaching forum for all of our students at all of our schools. So if you'll just kind of bear with me. My first slides are just the logistic parts of welcome back to everybody. Our first Monday next week will be with our certificated staff. It's the first contractual day, and we'll be meeting over at River City High School. Program will begin about 8:15 if you'd like to join us. Also on Tuesday, we're going to bring all of the classified staff. It's not their first day. It's for many classified staff, it is their first day, but most classified staff are working during the summer in order to prepare our schools. So we're going to bring them all together, serve them breakfast also on Tuesday. And Wednesday, of course, everybody's looking forward to this. I know our parents are. First day of school on Wednesday, so it's an exciting week coming up. Also wanted to give the board some dates to remember, and the first one is for tomorrow morning for teacher orientation, and there's many, many more for the month of August there. So last Saturday, I was just going to stop by the Collins Teen Center, just to stop by. We're talking complete drive-by, no makeup. I had my sunglasses on. I just intended to just say hi and just get a feel of what was going on. And I was really overwhelmed. There were people lined up outside the door of the Collins Teen Center. There were cars packed all over the place. People had to park in Rayleigh's grocery store parking lot. But mostly where I was most taken back was when I entered into the building and I saw all of our outreach specialists, our social workers, our counselors present and directing our families of where to go and just welcoming them with open arms and generously giving all of these donations to our children. And I also want to mention that tomorrow morning is another opportunity. So if you're watching this particular presentation currently, our children, other children, can still receive more school supplies. And tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at the Children's Alliance Center at Todd Hunter, you will be able to not just receive school supplies, but there's also some medical services that our families can access. So if you're watching, just know tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock is also another way to get school supplies. So we have heard a little bit about administrative advance, and I'm going to take just a few minutes to talk about this because, you know, some people have actually commented after the administrative advance to me that, oh, now I understand the work that you do. And it kind of took me back a little bit. Most people, I guess, don't know what a superintendent does. For me, it's about teaching. And what I'm trying to teach leadership is we are teachers first. You don't have to have a credential. We expect leadership to teach and to support staff and to coach staff, and that's going to be our main focus this coming year. We call these administrative advances because we want to advance everything forward. We want to advance teams, we want to advance schools, and most importantly, in advancing, we are planning, because when your planning is in place, then we're able to be more successful, and that's the concept of that. So there is a superhero theme that is going to run through this school year. On that last Thursday, we first only met with all of the administration. And so I facilitated a little physical activity, and I told them you have to wear your tennis shoes. And so we did a little bit of fun there, and of course the assistant principals won because of Jaime Avalar. And so we just started the day with some physical activity and just getting to know our superheroes. So most of Thursday had to do with 3 areas of leadership that all of the administration had to go through. And the first one is always about reflecting about our practice, what we did in previous years to be better this year. The second layer is about what are we learning? What are the takeaways? What are the things that I need to pay attention to as a leader? And the third picture there is about what do I need to do? What is my responsibility to then communicate what I'm learning to my staff so that it's spread out and shared to the school sites and to different departments? We talked about balanced leadership a lot last week because I remember my time being a principal and an assistant principal. And probably the principalship is probably the most dear position I have held, in that you get to be with kids and families. But there's a lot of responsibility to that. You have a certain amount of students, 800 students, times the amount of families, times the amount of staff that you're responsible for and caring for. And so we talked about how to balance all of that. And this year, we are going to focus on relationships, because there are times you must concentrate on operations and management, but it is time to start building and fostering a positive culture in all of our schools, across our district, and all of our departments, that it is about a togetherness and fostering that we are working on this together. And the only way to do that is to build relationships. So the next day, which is all the administration came together, and we had a room full of teachers as well. Now, we wanted CSEA leadership there as well, and it was the same week as CSEA's leadership conference. And so what we decided to do was postpone CSEA and do a mini kind of advance with them, because we didn't want to take away the leadership from this. We want them there. So what we talked about is making superheroes. And you're right, President Kirby Gonzalez. It's not about the glory of being a hero. The heroes are our teachers. The heroes are the people who serve directly to our children, our paraeducators, our bus drivers, our food service workers. But in administration, my expectation is that our job is to grow more superheroes, to help people in their leadership capacity. So the first thing is we're going to focus on increasing our capacity, building more superheroes, building more leaders across the district. The second is that all leadership, we are learning leaders. We don't know all the answers, and we're not perfect, but we're going to be learners. The third area is that we are all going to have positive growth mindsets. We don't know all the answers, and we are problem solvers. We are problem solvers. The answer, no, is really an answer that is, everything is possible. Everything is possible for our kids. So we need to be problem solvers. Number 4, we're going to work on building positive cultures around all of our campuses and all of our departments. And that is to lift our district and building our relationships. And lastly, we talked about our goals that are set forth from the board in the LCAP, the strategic plan, and what the state of California has put forth for us. So those were the areas of focus in our administrative advance. So I want to just give you some snapshots of what did this look like. We really focused, and you see the slide there about teamwork. It's about teamwork, transparency, trust, and togetherness. The transparency part is we have no secrets. Administration has no secrets. It is about sharing what we're trying to do together, because we're all working for the same goal, and that's to serve our students. We talked about the LCAP and the strategic plan, and if you can see there, there's a puzzle, a huge puzzle there with all the different pieces of the LCAP and the strategic plan. And what the entire room of 100 people did was we divided into these different puzzle pieces by choice. What area are you most interested in? And we talked about how does the LCAP fit and how does the strategic plan fit? And so it is all aligned. That's what we all walked away with. We're not doing two separate things. They're all completely aligned. So we also had, the reason why I'm showing this one picture of our Director of Transportation, Nate Hill, sorry, thank you, Nate there, is because all leadership took participation in this. And that's my expectation. We all lead. We all lead. So we're making superheroes here, and one of the parts of the day was that each school site with some administration was to create a skit about being superheroes for our students at the beginning of school. So we've got River City there. I know some of the masks kind of cover them, but River City's skit was pretty funny, where you had Principal Moisage as the Hulk, and he was having a really difficult day. And so what it showed was the staff at River City there coming through in different ways of being a superhero, whether it was support for counseling or timeout or guidance counselors, whatever it was. And so all of the schools did that. So you have River City, you have a picture of our TOSAs, our Teachers on Special Assignment and Program Specialists, who now are very clear about supporting classrooms, supporting schools, and supporting staff. You've got Bridgeway Island there, and you've got Westmore Oaks there. You have a Stonegate there, even with the MOT director there, see? So you've got Stonegate, you've got Riverbank teams there making superheroes. You have Westfield, and you've got Elkhorn. You have Yolo High School. You even have the Washington Middle College High School, and below there, you have Southport. So all the schools had to come together to create a skit about being superheroes for the students. And then you have us. Okay. And this is your cabinet here. And we had a lot of fun because I think it's important that we laugh. We find that joy in each other. And let me tell you, it really was not only just fun, but it was very heartening just to be together and to be able to be together with one common purpose, and that is we are all Washington Unified, and that we are all here on behalf of kids. So that was our administrative advance. So you're going to hear superhero theme throughout the year. So let's look at some more superheroes throughout our district. We want to give a shout out to our superhero Elizabeth Estella Burkholder, who was just brought into the Instructional Leadership Corps in the area of expertise in special education. And this is an organization. There are 284 members in California, and you've heard some of this before. We have 4 from Washington Unified that are part of this in the state of California. And so we want to give a shout out to Elizabeth, who just got elected onto that Instructional Leadership Corps. We also want to shout out our superhero partner, the Los Rios Community College. And last evening, I attended their board meeting because Washington Unified School District was on their board agenda. And we were on their board agenda because they passed an MOU to be our partner for the Washington Middle College High School campus. And it was really encouraging to hear all 7 board members make comments about how wonderful it is to have Washington Unified at this table. There are only 67, 68 middle college high schools in the state of California, or maybe the nation. I think it's the nation. And we're going to be one of them. Out of the blue gold ribbon schools in the state of California, 6 out of 8 high schools were middle college high schools that were winners of blue ribbon awards, gold ribbon awards. So I think we're on the right track because I can tell you that the Los Rios Community College Board of Trustees all attested, yes, you're on the right track. We support you. We know that you're in the beginning stage, and we can't wait to see how this is going to grow. So we are partners in dual enrollment. We have that at River City High School and now over at Middle College. We also have another superhero partner for Sacramento State. Yorgos and I met with President Stephen Nelson and his academic officers yesterday at Sac State. And what we offered was, please, Washington Unified should be your training ground for your incoming teachers, because we are the perfect training ground. We have students that are diverse, students who represent the state of California, students that are affluent, students that have needs. We have lots of diversity, and we have great support in terms of professional learning. So we offered that to Sacramento State to be training ground for future teachers and leaders. What I want you to know is that we are already partners with the EOP program. The Educational Opportunity Program is about reaching out to families who have never been to college. We are also part of the Beyond the GPA program with Sac State, and the board heard a presentation on that last year where they specifically target freshmen so that they can prepare them to enter college through their high school years. We have student teachers in Washington Unified from Sac State, and Sac State now is teaching our master teachers with a 10-hour requirement that has been put into place. So we've even strengthened our partnership more there. And then we have other internships, such as our social workers have had interns serving more of our students. So we have 4 social workers. It increased it more when 2 of our social workers had 2 interns. So that made 6 people able to serve more of our students. So we have 6 classroom teachers that are going to master teach taking in a student teacher, and we will continue to also take in a social worker intern. So we have a strong partnership with Sac State. I was able to really, this was the best part of my day. So the best part of my day was going to the custodial team training. And my custodians here are a great team, and they were excited. They were excited because they have guidance, they have leadership, they are valued, they are respected. And so I wanted to give a shout out to our superheroes who clean our schools and prepare every classroom for our teachers and our kids to have a really well-maintained school site. So those are our custodial superheroes. And then we had our paraeducators working today. They are our superheroes. These are our special education paraeducators going through training today for a 6-hour training. And so they were here today, even before school starts, to be ready to serve our students. We also had our MTSS cadre working, and they're our superheroes because they're putting in a new system for our district to better serve all of our students. And we have had our dream teams working, and I got to tell you, yesterday I sat with the ELA, the English Language Arts team, and it's amazing what they've done. I walked in and they said, Linda, do you want to see what we have in place? And I said, I'd love to see it. And they have now created 2 months of a unit of study. This was with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And what it is in 2 months, a teacher now has, here are all the resources that you can use. Here are all the standards to teach in these 2 months. Here are the other things that you can go to for extra support for 2 months. And now we're all on the same page. Not on the same page of we're on page 15. That does not exist anymore. What we exist now are our teachers are experts and professionals in their craft. And they just have some guidelines so that they can support one another. So think of our new teachers tomorrow who are coming. If they're a 6th grade English teacher, for 2 months, they have support already in place. So that's what our dream team is doing, and we're pretty excited. I get excited at that kind of stuff. So, and lastly, I want to thank our board. You are our superheroes because every time that you support the work that we do, you create more superheroes in us. And I want to thank the board for that. You get forgotten a lot. We thank a lot of people, but we forget to thank you. So I wanted to let you know that you have a bag of swag. And the swag here is what those who went to the administrative advance received. And in the bag, you have a folder that had all the PowerPoints and everything that all of the administration and the teachers who attended went through. But I want to draw your attention. There is also, we're requiring all of our employees now to wear their badges. So when you go on your campus, I hope you get a badge in the HR department, get a fresh picture, get a badge, and you have a lanyard, because we want to make sure all of our schools are safe and well monitored. And there's a Superman pin, and so you're going to put that Superman pin on your lanyard as you're a superhero for us. There's also little things in our bag here of superheroes, but I want to just draw your attention to your magnet. And your magnet says, today a reader, tomorrow a leader, and that's a picture of a student. So thank you very much, Board of Trustees, for all your support and all your work, your vision, your passion to just give our students in Washington Unified the very best possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We can just end the meeting now. That was great. Yeah, thank you for that. It really, just a lot of powerful things happening. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I forgot to mention in my public comment, I was fortunate, and many people, I think, on Facebook to see a video that Christy Jordan and her sidekick put together, and I apologize, I forget her name, starring teachers and telling a little bit about each teacher. I personally thought that was awesome, and I look forward to a few more, hopefully, but it was really entertaining, and it was a great way to spotlight some of our teachers. So if you haven't seen it, hopefully, I'm not sure if it's on our WUSD website or where I saw it, but
Yeah, maybe great. Thank you.
I just had a quick question. I just had a quick question for Batman Reed over there. Is it true that you actually had your glasses on underneath your mask?
I had important things to read.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure.
You're not supposed to, notice those things.
All right. So that takes us to the consent agenda. As a reminder, N3 and N6 were pulled. We're going to put those at the end of action. So we will vote on the consent agenda with N3 and N6 removed, and we'll talk about those at the end of action. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, motion was made by Vice President Pizzotti. Do I have a second?
A second.
And seconded by Board Trustee Wong. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I too vote aye. Thank you. That takes us to information discussion items. We have O1, Washington Unified School District Homework Policy Committee. And that is with Amber Lee, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, as well as some others.
Good evening, President Kirby Gonzalez, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Luna, Cabinet, and distinguished guests and staff members. It is our pleasure today to bring forth a great team and share with the Board of Education the process that we went through to develop a recommended homework policy that we bring forth to you tonight with the 6,000 series. So just a little background and history. This started back in the fall. I met with President Kirby Gonzalez and a parent. I met with some other parents at another site. And there was definitely this overwhelming feel among some parents that we needed to look at our homework policy. And knowing that this policy would be coming forth with revisions and recommendations to the board in the springtime, it was recommended that a committee be established to get input from our stakeholders to advise us as we make recommendations to our homework policy. So the process of soliciting members for our meetings. I'm sorry, I'm remiss. Before I continue, I wanted to introduce two of our amazing staff members. We have Erin Camere, our program specialist, and Deanna, I know it's hyphenated? Trio Chrisman, who is one of our new 6th grade teachers at Westfield, but previously 5th grade, and just a leader in our district. She serves on many, many committees, and every time I ask her to do something, she says yes willingly, and so she was a valued member of this committee. So we sent out an all-call via our website and email to every single parent in our district, asking if they'd like to be part of actually 2 different committees we were currently soliciting members for. We had our GATE committee and our homework policy committee. The meetings were in the evening to allow for our working parents, and the first meeting we did not have as great of a response. There was a small handful of people in the room. So at that point, I reached out to Krista Koch, our coordinator of ELs, and she reached out to her homeschool liaisons, and they personally made phone calls to parents so that we would have an equal representation of both parents from our northern schools and our southern schools. They actually went to homes, to knock on doors, to reach out to try to solicit. And I want to thank Deanna too, because Deanna was at the first meeting, and she also made valiant efforts to try to recruit some of her parents from Westfield so that we would have some equal representation. Because at that meeting, I think Deanna was the sole representation of our northern school. So after that, we did get some more members, but in all honesty, the committee was not balanced with equal representation, but it was not for a lack of effort on our part. There's just a lot of demands, I think, placed on parents with activities and childcare issues. So we continuing to explore ways to recruit and get parents to be part of our committee. We held 4 meetings monthly between January and April, and we had 14 active members on the committee. And you'll see in a second, we had way more members on the committee, but these 14 individuals came to every single meeting. And when I say rain or shine, literally, there's a couple in the winter, you remember, it was very, very windy and rainy. And the purpose, again, was to review our current board policy and administrative regulations, look at some current research, and provide feedback and input. These were some of our committee members. see their name and the school they represent. And again, if they have an asterisk behind their name, that means that they attended every single meeting. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to these two amazing women to share with you the process that we went through.
Good evening, President Gonzalez and trustees. Continuing on, I really want to talk about the process that we went through. And it was really very much so an involved collaborative process. And I'm going to kind of take you step by step in a sort of a sequential way of how it rolled out over the different meetings. We started with first looking at the current board policy. And again, the current board policy was last revised in 1990. And we looked at just a couple of the key points that came out of it. And those included that the Board of Education believes that homework serves many important purposes, that it can reinforce academic skills taught, and that it should reinforce the objectives from the classroom. We also noted in the policy, the current policy, that assignments should not place an undue burden on students and families, that each school site should have an effective homework plan that, of course, follows the policy, that homework will be assigned on a regular basis, and that students who have been excused from, what am I missing? Sorry, one more. And that students who will be excused for an excused absence can make up the work, and specifically noted that it said excused absence. And so our next step, after looking at our current policy, is we wanted to get a sense of what was some of the research. And so we looked at articles, and we watched some different videos that were available electronically to us. And a few of the articles one of the articles that was very instrumental that we really looked at was the Education Update, Does Homework Help? That was just out in January. It was current. This was our first meeting, and here we had this article. We also looked at some videos from Dr. Kathy Verderat, I hope I pronounced that right, Global Homework Trends, which was also out in January, and Denise Pope, who is very well recognized, and the homework during the elementary year, specifically for elementary and how homework affects it. Some of the other researchers that we included that we looked at was Harris Cooper as well, and he was in the Does Homework Help article, was one of the other ones that were noted. At this point, we also wanted to make sure that we heard from our staff, from our teachers, from the people who are working with our children and our students every day. So we wanted to make sure that they had a voice. The survey went out to all of the certificated staff, and they were very much so encouraged to answer the survey. We actually said, hey, we'll give you a gift cert, we'll do a drawing for a gift certificate. We really wanted to make sure that we gathered input. And so we had 68 elementary teachers and 44 secondary teachers, and a couple of those were specialists, like special education teachers as well, who replied. There were quite a few questions on the homework survey. It was generally most of the questions had a scale 1 to 5, 1 being it was not important, 2 somewhat important, 3 important, 4 very important, or a 5. If they gave it a 5, it would be extremely important. And a couple of the key areas that we looked at was the importance of the learning process. And 59% of our elementary teachers and 47% of our secondary teachers felt that homework is either a 4 or a 5, very or extremely important to the learning process. We also looked at how do they figure it into the overall grade that shows up on the report card. And it seemed interesting at first that less than 2% in elementary, but to clarify that, They do tend to put a homework grade, but it's not embedded in the academic grade as much as in the effort grade is where it tended to show at the elementary, where 84% showed it as within the actual academic grade itself, not part of effort. Oh, I went the wrong direction. Oh, sorry. Thought something was wrong. One of the other questions, how much time does homework take to complete? This was a very important question from parents because there was maybe the feeling that the parents felt that homework might take a little bit longer than maybe what the teachers thought it would take. And this was based on the best judgment of the teachers. How much do you think it takes your average student to complete? And 65% of the elementary teachers said less than 30 minutes, and 75% of the secondary said the same. And then, should homework be given at the discretion of the teacher? Overwhelmingly, teachers said that, over 70% for both of the categories, that yes, teachers should have that discretion. And this really came up, this really resonated in the last part of the survey where it was an open-ended question. Do you have any comments or anything that you would like to share? They could simply type a paragraph worth, and had quite a few comments that were given from the teachers. But one of the resonating messages was that teachers really wanted their professional judgment to be valued, and I think that goes back to that other question about the 71 and 77% feeling they should have discretion as a teacher, because they feel that they, of course, know their students the best. The next part of this process is we started to take everything that we had done, the articles and the research, the surveys, looking at our current board policy, the CSBA sample policies, and many, many, many other district policies. Quite a few from neighboring schools around us, but even some schools that were from other states as well, just so that we could have some comparisons. And throughout this, and this happened really every single meeting, there was a collaborative process of discussing, talking about, making sure that people were being heard and their thoughts were being expressed. We then, besides just the talking, we started taking some of the different policies that we had, the sample policy, our policy, the other school policies, and they started highlighting and writing and underscoring and marking up, this is really good wording, or this is something that's important to us. And from there, on another meeting, and a lot of this was done at home. I mean, this was such some of the members of this group were so passionate. They've spent hours at home, as I say, doing homework on the homework policy, and they would email in their comments and their suggestions. So that was coming as well. And on another time, we took all those comments and we posted them on sticky notes and chart paper. And from that, a draft was drawn up, and then in our final meeting, we went through that draft line item by line item and made adjustments with as a committee for other things that just needed to be possibly slightly reworded. And then we come to the final recommended policy, and that is that keeping some of the same wording from the original, and some things a little bit different, but some of the key points is that homework should promote high-quality student learning and achievement, that it should reinforce classroom learning and objectives, and relate to the individual student. This was a very important part to a number of the parents, is that having the ability, especially when it comes to individual needs or possibly need for differentiation. Homework should not place an undue burden on the students' families or teachers, and that teacher professionalism should be considered. Again, going back to the teachers feel that they know their students and that they would like to be able to make adjustments as appropriate. And then also the students should be allowed to make up missed work. So if a student is absent, that they can make it up. There were some recommended timelines that were provided, and the recommended timelines, I think that this was important to some families because they did feel that sometimes their children were doing so much homework and that it was a little bit long at times, and so they wanted to make sure that there was something included that way. And then finally, that the homework plans, there should also be a site homework plan that was reflective of course, the guidelines of the district plan. And that is the part of the presentation I have for you, but one of the things, we had a parent who wanted to come very much, and unfortunately, because she has young children at home, she wasn't able to, but she did send in a message, and we'd like to be able to read that to you now.
Hello. This is a message from Dorina Godding. I participated on the committee involved in the review of the current homework policy and regulation. After months of meetings and discussion, we bring forth our revised policy and regulation for your consideration. 2 of my children are students at Stonegate Elementary School, and based on my older son's struggle with routine and repetitive daily homework, I jumped at the chance to participate to ensure that the revised policy worked for every child in West Sacramento. The committee reviewed the current policy and regulation, read current studies on homework practices, and reviewed other district policies. I read the policies provided by Aaron, including many others I located on my own, including the policies of Sacramento, San Juan, Davis, Woodland, Long Beach, and Los Angeles. Doing so ensured the policy would consider and incorporate current research and that it was aligned with my beliefs on what I felt was best for the students in our district. The committee members were very engaged and passionate about their own views, which produced in-depth discussion of what should be considered and included in the policy and regulation. What you see today is a reflection of these extensive discussions. Understanding the students in our district are very diverse, it was important to me that the new policy address this. Also, it was important that the policy not require routine daily homework for the sake of assigning homework, that some thought went into assigning homework, and that it would be at the discretion of the teacher to decide what works best for their students. In addition, the new policy includes a role and responsibility section where it details how everyone in the district is involved in the successful implementation of the new policy. And importantly, we included our policy statement and philosophy on homework, as well as an annual feedback survey to ensure schools are effectively interpreting and implementing the policy, and that parents are seeing these changes with their children. This is important because this effort would be fruitless if we are not aware if the policy is being interpreted and implemented successfully in the school site plans and by the teachers as well. I appreciate your consideration on the revised policy and the opportunity to have this note read on my behalf. Dorina Godding, parent of students at Stonegate Elementary School. Thank you.
Oh, I had a question.
Yeah, no, I'm going to open it now.
Okay, just 2 questions. I wanted some clarification. You mentioned that when they assign homework, teachers usually will grade it upon effort. Let's say a student hands in homework and a lot of the answers are wrong. Is that how it's graded? I mean, added to the overall grade? Rather than maybe try and help the student along? How is that graded?
We'll be happy to share the results with you, but overwhelmingly, teachers reported that either they did not grade it, they just checked it for completeness, or they graded it for effort. But I think what Aaron's referring to is that on the report card, there's actually a box or a section to mark the effort of homework. So there is a place to comment on the report card, at least for K-5, on homework, not given like a letter grade or a standards-based grade, but do they complete it, is it neat, and do they put the effort into it?
Thank you. And my other question, I was really disappointed that we didn't have more participation from the north. Would we have had interpreters? Did the parents understand that we would have had interpreters there?
Yes. Yes, that was part of when we sent out the homeschool liaisons. We do have the interpretive devices that we use at our meetings, and we also had several Spanish-speaking committee members that are willing to interpret as well. And I don't know if you want to comment on that as well, because I know you reached out to many parents.
It was a lot of feedback that I received was time. We're busy, we can't right now, just unable to.
Just a question on that, because I know when I've gone over to Westfield, I've seen the parents in the mornings, out there helping and everything. Would just maybe for next year, another time that you go and revise these homework policies, or review them, I should say, maybe we can offer some of those in the morning. That would probably be better for some of the Latino parents. Okay, thank you.
Great suggestion, thank you. And just another comment, sometimes as Doreen commented in her letter, often parents will show up to these types of committees if they have issues. So sometimes the non-attendance is a sign that there's no issues or questions or concerns.
Thank you.
Put it out there.
Sarah?
Board Vice President Pizzotti?
Thank you. Going back to the survey where it says very or extremely important, 59% of elementary, 47% of secondary. I was just curious as to how many teachers said it was not important at all, or important, or has no effect. Because you're basically rating 1 through 5, right? You basically listed the 4 and 5. What are the 1, 2s, and 3s? What are those numbers?
We can get that information for you. We have the survey with us. I don't recall it off the top of my head.
I appreciate
But
seeing that.
I would like to point out that the survey results, the differences between secondary and elementary do point to a lot of the current research. Much of the research shows that the elementary level, there is not the impact on student achievement or educational gains for elementary, as there is some research to point to the impact at the secondary level.
That's not really what I was going towards. I'm just going towards the attitudes of the teachers towards the homework and what were they feeling in terms of, some of it sounds like almost 60% are saying it's, very or extremely important in elementary school. So I just wanted to see how many of them felt that is, more of the classroom instruction really the critical part. Where is it? What number is that? Where are we figuring into that?
To expedite the meeting, we can get this information for you at another time.
Then my second question is, it said recommended time limits are provided as guidelines in the final policy portion. One of the things that I was wondering is, what did the parents feel? They were saying that there's too much homework being given, right? For the elementary school age, how much time did they say it was being given? Because it said in the previous slide, from the teacher's standpoint, less than 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes. That's incongruent with what the parents are saying. So my question is, what are the parents saying?
I think what we had with our parents were, you had parents that felt they had a child that breezed through their homework quickly, and then second child, third child came along, and suddenly homework's an hour long, and it's the same packet that their first child received. So they were starting to, become upset that this was taking longer and longer. I personally felt that the parents that did come were often talking about, sometimes it was student attitude. I have a homework struggler, and I know that, 2 hours later, we're still doing homework. So I think that a lot of our parents said, it's this packet, I've got to get through it, it's taking forever. It might not have been all the kids that took forever, but it's now this student that was taking a long time.
So you're saying that there's usually outliers in terms of?
I think some of our parents had outliers.
Okay.
Other parents, I feel,
I think overwhelmingly the feeling, and again, these are only the parents that either I met with personally or that attended this homework committee policy, there was a disconnect between what teachers felt, how long it should take to complete, and what the parents actually experienced.
I know, I personally at one point told parents, we can only guess when we assign homework. I'm assuming it's going to take your student 30 minutes. If it isn't, you really need to let me know. Please write me a note. Please send me an email. Give me a call. I can't guess. I don't know what home is like.
And is that based on the amount of time it's taking the student in classroom to complete assignments? Is that where you're making your judgment on?
I make my judgment call based on kind of what I'm seeing in class. If 5 problems are taking us an hour, I'm not going to assign 20 for homework. That would, I'm assuming I can send you 2 problems in math, depending on the subject that we're doing. I try to gauge based on the years that I've taught. This should take you 15 minutes. If it doesn't, and I'm very clear with my parents, please write me a note. Contact me. I don't want anyone sitting at a kitchen table for 2 hours and tears because I gave you a spelling list.
Right. I get that. Not all parents, though, are going to reach out,
No,
and that's, part of the issue. So I get that. Now, for secondary, again, that's incongruent with the number in the survey. So if the teachers are saying 30 minutes, is that 30 minutes per class?
Yes.
So in secondary, it could be as high as 2-3 hours long.
Correct.
Based on what a teacher
Right.
feels is happening in the classroom, based on the instructional material and the, whatever classwork that they're doing, then it could be 30 minutes per class, and then.
Of the core classes.
Right.
The core, so the 4.
Right.
Be 2 hours.
But again, like you said, it could be a person struggling with homework, maybe a lack of focus at home, whereas they're focused in the classroom. So it could be closer to 3-4 hours a night, correct?
I mean, it's of course possible depending on, the student, and I think that's why one of the, in this roles and responsibilities sections, one of the parents really wanted to include a section that said that teachers should make sure students know that if their homework is taking too much time, that much time, that if they're older students, then they could come and talk to their teacher. If they're younger children, that the parents and the families come and talk to the teacher. So that was at least an attempt to help address sometimes those issues with students who are really struggling to complete their homework, so that they feel that they can come to their teachers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Board Trustee Cruz?
Thank you for meeting and doing research and putting this together for us. And I know homework policy is just a policy. Many parents don't read it. Many students don't understand it. And I wonder, in your survey, in your analysis, how English learners played a role in time management. And when you made, there's a comment that some of the parents were too busy or didn't have time to come out to the committee. And if they're saying that for a committee, how many of those parents don't have time to sit and do homework, especially English learners who struggle more because a lot of their families aren't even home to help them. So I don't know, I don't see anywhere in here talking about English learners, and I was wondering if that played a role in any of this in your discussions.
The survey was sent out to staff members only, was not sent out to parents. And so that was not something that was specifically brought up in the committee.
So the staff members didn't talk about English learners?
Correct.
And also a comment was made that, which I disagree, and we can all agree to disagree, that parents or people not showing up to these committees means maybe everything's okay. I think in our community, there are a lot of parents that don't show up because they don't know what to expect. They don't know how to express themselves. And so I don't think not necessarily not showing up means it's okay. I see that there was a minimal financial, for this committee. I don't know the future of the committee. I hope you stay intact. I would like to see more progress on this committee. I would like to see more on English learners, and I'd like to see more, Board Member Alcala pointed out, I really would like to see more over on Elkhorn and Riverbank. There's a lot of students struggling there, a lot of English learners, and I know you can do what you can do. I know you reached out, but especially with the school year starting, I think it's a strong start to reach out to these parents, especially English learners that struggle with homework times, because it may be 30 minutes for an English, speaking parent, but, we have a diverse community, not just, Spanish, but we have the Russian community, that, all the communities. So I really would like to see some kind of timeline or discussion for English learners on maybe what the timeline they would think if it adds 30 minutes because they have to struggle, and also Common Core. I mean, I couldn't even help my son, with Common Core because it's too advanced. So how does that play a role in adding time onto their homework? But I do appreciate the time. I hope the committee stays intact. I hope maybe we can still reach out and get new members, new parents, and just keep it active.
So the committee is no longer in existence because the committee's intent was to provide input and feedback on the board policy revision. However, with that being said, new state and federal guidelines and LCAP is now requiring parent education, not just parent engagement, but parent education. We are required to train all staff members in the area of parent engagement, in addition to, parent engagement and training, parent training. And we will be working on that plan for this year. So not only will we be providing training to our staff members, but we will also be providing parent education to our parents as well, which is including that whole, everything you just talked about. Parents struggle with homework. How do I help my kid with Common Core? We have 2 new textbooks. And how do we help parents at home understand and access those resources? So that will be an important component moving forward.
Thank you. And again, thank the committee for their time.
Board Trustee Wong, did you have a comment? Okay. Board Trustee.
I just wanted to follow up quickly. Thank you, President Kirby-Gonzalez. I just wanted to follow up on an idea I had for, maybe better involvement next year. And that is go around to the school sites and actually hold a committee meeting comprised of the school sites, and then taking them around and have one large committee meeting at the end, if you can get that done, but take input from every school site. So if you can get maybe parents who pick up their kids after school, or, something where you can actually get them at a physical location because they're already there, and try and grab the input that you need from them there, and then do that at every school site. You then can have a large, group meeting at the end if you can get everybody to participate, but at least you got the feedback from every site. And that might be a way to approach it in the future.
That's good.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, I have a few. And so, first of all, thank you very much again for all this work and all this time that went in. I heard loud and clear professional judgment, value us, and all of those pieces, so thank you. With that said, there were a couple places where I was a little bit surprised because one, said we want a professional judgment, but the other's piece was that such a high number said homework is very important or extremely important, and that goes against the research that you were looking at. And so that to me feels a little bit of a disconnect. Maybe we need to do more education in our district on some of this. And then one piece was homework should promote high quality student learning and achievement, but I don't understand how homework promotes high quality student achievement, because it's not promoting it, it's an extension of what you do in the class to maybe reinforce it. And the way that you explain what you do and everything that was being said to me didn't align with that statement. And then I'll just make one more piece. We'll be talking about this policy later this evening, and I see what time it already is. But again, the comments that were made and the research that was made, then to me, doesn't align with the time, because then it says that times are, it's 10 minutes a grade basically. So let's say fifth grade is 50 minutes, and that is not including nightly reading. And so that doesn't, again, those don't align to me. And it says that the board believes that significant educational gains can be made by students through well-defined homework. But did you read any research that said that there were significant educational gains from homework? Would be my question. No. Okay, so as we look at that, I just want us to then make sure that what you're saying and what we value, what all the parents are saying and what everybody's saying, that they match up. Because, as we look at some of the research, they talk about that there's not much of a difference of impact for our youngest kids especially, and that 5 to 10 minutes can have the same effect as 1 or 2 hours, and in some ways be more beneficial, like the 1 or 2 math problems. If you're using it in class to assess, not grade, but assess and give you a quick kind of stick of how did they do yesterday? Are they still getting it, or do I need to revisit? That's really meaningful. But a packet of worksheets that takes 50 minutes plus, reading. So I just want to make sure as we think about this that we're making sure we stay with what you say, because I feel like some of this language might not align with what I hear you saying, if that makes sense.
And to your point, while the research article from ASCD was current, January 2017, it did quote researchers and research studies from 2003, and that was what the committee based some of their guidelines from research dated 2003.
Okay, that makes a little more sense then. Okay. All right. Look,
Again, our role was to facilitate the committee and take their input and bring it forward to you all.
Well, I guess the goal is that homework for our kids always feels like it did for some of these parents, where they're so passionate that they want to go home and keep learning and keep working all on their own, even when it's not assigned. Thank you, and I know we'll use this as we look at the policy later this evening. So thank you again. All right, have a good evening. Okay. So that takes us then to our Measure V, our O2, Measure V and certification of participation refinance results and business services. Scott Landsberger.
Board Member Kirby Gonzalez, members of the board. As you know, we sold 2 bonds in June. One was the second issuance of your Measure V bond. The first was the second issuance of the Measure V bond, and the second was refinancing of the certificate of participation that was originally issued in 2007 when you were finishing River City High School. And so here to present the results of that is Lori Ranieri from Government Financial Strategies, and she'll walk you through a couple of very quick presentations.
Thank you. I know it's late. It's been a very inspiring meeting, so I've been glad to be here, but I will be pretty quick. You've had a lot of presentations on both of these topics in the past, and this is just the conclusion as we went to the next step. And is this a clicker that I can use? Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to talk about Measure V, and then we'll talk about Matt Kolker, who's here with me from our firm. We'll talk about the COPs. So believe it or not, in quick order, I'm going to cover all of these things, and I'm just going to get right into it on page 3 for those of you who are following along. The first thing I want to say is on Thursday, June 8th, when we had the bond sale, we had some wonderful support from the Washington Unified School District community. Attending at our office were Angie Nichols of staff, Evelyn, I never know how to say her last name. It has an N and a D and some vowels, but you probably know who I'm talking about. She's a wonderful community member. Jill Tom, and of course, Don Stoffer, who I discovered has quite a background in business. So he enlightened us with that. And they came to our office. We had the bids at 9:05 a.m. $24.9 million of bonds were sold. We used a modern internet bidding platform. Bids were accepted from all over the United States. Our goal, as you'll recall, was to get as much competition as possible, with the idea that the more competition, that lowers the cost. We're trying to save taxpayer money. At the same time, the market is very volatile, and as you can see, if you look at the graph on page 4, interest rates had been overall dropping since we first started planning Measure V, but you can see there were many moments where they started to climb. And of course, we always worry, but as a reminder, we assume in our planning that interest rates will rise. We assume historical volatility, and we assume it all on the upside, because we don't need to plan for interest rates being low. That's good news. That's easy to manage. It's if they are high that it's a problem. Now, interestingly enough, while I talk about volatility, we're very happy to see interest rates drop as our sale approached. And you can see on the graph that the benchmark interest rate on the day of the sale was 3.53. When this presentation was prepared, it was 3.51, and today it's 3.52. So you might question my veracity on the topic of volatility. However, during this time, it actually got as high as 3.61. So to us, that's a lot of volatility in the bond world. Okay, just a little bit of humor. Dogbert says we're getting to the financial services game. That way all of our products can be imaginary. Later, one of the employees is talking to a customer. Can you give me reliable investment advice? Yes, as far as you know. We know that you don't have our expertise. One of the things about having an independent financial advisor is we are your fiduciary. We only represent the school district. That is our sole interest in this transaction, and we are not paid on commission. We're here to make sure that you get the best result, and we also do it in a very public way, and that's why we welcome guests to participate. Our bidding came from across the United States. We had 5 bids. One of the most interesting things in this sale was that no bids came from California. Now you might think, why is that so interesting? Particularly because if you live in California and you buy a municipal bond that's issued by a California public agency, it's double tax-free, free of state income tax, free of federal income tax. So there's demand among Californians from bonds issued in California. So why did none of the bids come from within California? Because these firms all run funds and have brokers who service people in California. It's a national market. So here's our winning bidders. Robert Baird, a firm that none of you may ever have heard of before, beat firms that you probably have heard of. I bet you've heard of Bank of America. You may have heard of Morgan Stanley. And this is the value of competition. If you were choosing people on their paper resume, right, you might choose one of these more well-known names. But this is a financial transaction in which it's only about cost. There's no increased service from having a good name. We want the lowest cost for our taxpayers. The other thing you can see when the bidding is the difference between the first place bid and the last place bid was $165,000. So that's a significant savings to our taxpayers. Those are taxes we won't collect because we don't need it. The other interesting thing is when we see the cover bid so close to the winning bid, we know we had good information, right? Our bidders had good information. When there's a wide spread, we wonder if everybody was understanding the same thing. So it was all in all a very successful sale. Now, this graph might make your eyes roll to the back of your head, and you know, I heard some conversation about what you're teaching this year, and I'm so happy that you're teaching math, and I'm sure you're teaching the graphical presentation of mathematical information. And this is a new graph I'm experimenting on you with. Because what I wanted to share with you is, as you know, we're selling $24.9 million worth of bonds, but every principal maturity gets its own interest rate. And the bidders are bidding all these different interest rates, and we use a calculation called true interest cost to equalize and compare the bids. And true interest cost, for those of you who are accountants, is the same calculation as internal rate of return, exactly the same math. It just has a different name in finance than we call it in accounting. And what you'll notice is our winning bidder of Robert Baird had the first place bid on several maturities, but on the smaller maturities, because the smaller maturities, that's the amount of principal, it's the smaller, shorter maturities. See all the blue that they have in the first part? And some of the other bidders, like the third place bidder, had more blue in the beginning, but they got more costly at the end. And the true interest cost is actually thinking about it. It's calculating the value of how long each bond is outstanding and at what interest rate, and calculating the best rate. And so one of the things we can see their different marketing strategies based on how they're bidding. Where are they selling these bonds? Is it retail? Is it institutional? We can actually tell by how they're bid. and this is how we equalize the bid. So this was a very interesting result to us nerdy people, and I won't spend any more time on it. Okay, so as I mentioned, we assume that interest rates are going to be high, so this is what we thought we would be looking at when I presented before. We took the market rates, and so I'm on page 10. We took the market rates and we assume that we're going to pay more than a AAA bond because we're not AAA. We're not at the highest rating level. And so, but we did have a very good rating. Our underlying rating was A+, and we offered insurance that we could be insured up to a AA. So this is what we were assuming before the sale. And then interest rates dropped. So I showed you a one-rate index in my prior graph, but this is the interest rates at every maturity, and it's MMD stands for Municipal Market Data, and it's not just educators that use acronyms. And because of our competition, you can see that our spread really narrowed. Put another way, our rates were much closer to AAA than historically an A+ underlying credit would be. And what forces those rates down? It's the competition. Morgan Stanley, a very good name, was our last place bidder, right? So we also did better than expected on cost of issuance, and so as a result of our winning bidder giving us a premium upfront money that goes into the debt service fund, it allows us to structure the bonds a little bit different. We were able to increase the amount for projects by almost $750,000. Now, that isn't something we made happen, it's something that we set the table so that it could happen if the market allowed. And so you might remember that our whole philosophy about how we do this is we have a conservative plan that has room for upside but can survive a downside, right? And this really paid off here. So the other thing that you'll remember is that we were originally planning to sell the bonds in 3 tranches. We sold them in 2, allowing for our ability to bring projects forward, do them faster, less inflation on the cost side if we're buying them earlier. And in addition, we had net additional proceeds from the 2 sales of just under $2 million. So given the size of Measure V, that's a substantial extra spending power that we bring for our taxpayers. So we are not only able to spend more, bringing value to the community, but at a lower cost. And here's that lower cost. This graph shows in the dotted line what our original projection was. The dark line is where we thought we would be after we sold bonds in 2015, and then the 2 purple together is where we actually ended up. So our taxes will be for a shorter period and significantly less. So we keep improving, and the way we keep improving, and again, if you have a conservative plan, there's room for that improvement. So some of that improvement is because we're conservative to begin with. Some of it is good luck. So on page 16, you can see that our pre-election average tax was expected to be $38.97, and we're now under 30. So that is really fantastic, and our bonds will be paid off 2 years earlier than expected. So usually, if you pay it off early, like you pay extra on your mortgage so you can pay it off early, you're paying more. We're paying less for less years. So really a terrific result. We can attribute that to the fact that this is a best practices district. These are all the best practices that we used. Interestingly enough, the state of California passed a law requiring all public agencies to have a debt policy, and they specifically mentioned GFOA policies. And we're like, oh, Washington Unified, we're already there. Glad the state has finally caught up. Okay, we have our debt portfolio. As you recall, we now have added this debt, but then we monitor this for refinancing opportunities, just like you're about to hear about with the COPs. So I know this is very small, and you're probably not going to read it, but it gives us the information so that we monitor. And what are we monitoring? Not the market. We start with, when are our bonds callable? That's the gateway question. When do we hit that point that we can pay them off early? Then we check the market to make sure that it's open to us. Okay, so here's the conclusion. Lower debt service, lower tax rates, fewer years of taxation, more facilities funds, projects can be started early, frankly, I don't know what other metric we could do better on. So it's just been a really great result from beginning to end for taxpayers and for our students, because we'll be doing more for the students, more for the employees, more at the school sites, and we'll be doing it earlier. So they will have the benefit of it for longer. What's in my for reference section is a lot more detail, and I think because of the hour, I'm not going to go over any of it, but I might refer to it if you have a question for me. So let me stop talking and see if you want to ask me anything.
Question?
Oh, bravo.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, knocking on all those doors to get this bond, and we were telling people the $39 or, around then, and to know now that it's lower. I mean, this is all good news for our community, so.
Okay, so Matthew Kolker of our office, he's been with our firm 2 years. He has just passed his licensing examination, and so he is a Series 50 securities license holder. So he may now come to the podium as far as the Securities and Exchange Commission is concerned, and also as far as I'm concerned.
That's going to be a tough act to follow, man.
Good evening. So I'll briefly go over the COP refi that we did. Since a lot of it is going to be very similar to what Laura just presented, this will be even quicker than her record-setting pace. Similar agenda. The bids for the COPs are actually a week prior to the Measure V bond sale. Since it was affecting the public as much, we didn't have anybody show up for it, but we proceeded nonetheless. So as you can see, on this we had a total of 6 bids, and it's interesting that the last place bid was almost $2 million, just 1.9, a little over 1.9 million more than the first place bid. So that, shows a remarkable benefit to the competitive bidding process. And as Lori mentioned before, that very close second place bid of 22,000 means that the first place bid wasn't unhappy with what they put in. So out of the bidders, this time we did have one bid from within California, from Citibank, who happened to be the last place bidder. So, but one thing I'll point out that probably could have shown on the previous slide was that Bank of America was the winning bidder, was the second place bidder on the Measure V bonds. So going through the animation of the slides, just the summary slide of the spread difference. You can see that the orange is showing what we had estimated before the sale, and then through the competitive nature, the spread got really narrow. If you look at the first 2 years, it's almost, right on top of the AAA line, so it's a pretty good benefit there. And then, as we mentioned in the title, that the credit improved from the 2007 bonds, or COPs, and that's shown here that, quite a bit of a drop in rate from 5 to just over 5%, and now our highest is a little over 3% in the reoffering yield. This lovely chart again with all the fancy colors. With the COP bids, you can see that the first place bid once again was, definitely had the best bid, best rates or yields on the first about 10 years, and then, their second and third after that, and showed that strategy ended up paying off. And as we went through on the information presentation, we said, okay, we can save the money, so if you get more back into the general fund over time, or we can go ahead and capitalize that savings so you keep paying the same amount and then get all that money up front. And at that time, we had estimated a little over $5 million. So this whole process ended up getting just under $11 million in capitalized savings. So it's a pretty remarkable number there, which is 85% more than what we had estimated. And this just demonstrates, we're talking about the debt service is still, essentially the same. It's saving $35,000, but you're getting the money up front. And this is the sources and uses of funds, and it just kind of shows the breakdown of where that savings comes from. We got quite a bit of premium from the bid, taking in the reserve fund that was previously getting paid off the last year. Now we're going to get that up front and use the surety bond to cover the reserve needs. So it ends up with the nice $10.9 million that you can use for facility needs. And similar GFOA best practices utilized. We can summarize the competitive bids over the past 7 years. This is since 2010. We've had 12 different underwriters that have submitted a total of 33 bids. And you can see that, 7 GO bonds and COP sales. 2 underwriters won twice each time, and one winning 3 times. So we've had some, others in there that popped in second or third place but haven't won yet. So maybe the next time they're going to, push a little harder so they can be the winner. And just going to highlight here that we've added the 2017 COPs that we'll be monitoring. Since it's not callable until 2026, it's going to be a little while before we consider doing a refi on them, but probably at, 2024 for the 2014 one. So it'll be a while till we're looking at doing any refunding of COPs, but we'll keep track of it. And even with getting the additional money back, their debt service ratio did improve from 1.96 to 1 to 1.83 to 1, so paying less for money for dollar borrowed. And that's the end of this one. So any questions on the COPs?
Okay, no questions from us. Thank you so much, and thank you for sticking with us here tonight. I know it's a little bit late.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, we do love these pens. Okay, and as a reminder, we did pull 03, the program update on special education services at the beginning of the meeting. So now we have public hearing. So I will open this public hearing, which is P1, the Washington Middle College High School Local Control Accountability Plan, the LCAP, with Dr. Parsons, Assistant Superintendent Educational Services, and Sean O'Neill, the Principal of Washington Middle College High School.
Good evening, President Kirby Gonzalez, Board of Trustees, Cabinet, and community members. Tonight, we're asking for the public hearing to do the LCAP for Washington Middle College High School for the next 3 years. And for the board's information, because of the status of it being a dependent charter school, we're exploring the possibility of weaving it into our district LCAP next year when we review. So I will turn it over to Mr. O'Neill, who will go over the actions and goals.
Great.
Good evening, President Kirby Gonzalez, board members, cabinet, community members. I'll try and be brief here. Let me figure out the controls. There we go. So essentially, there's 3 overall goals. The first is that Washington Middle College High School will improve student achievement through increased instructional rigor and integrated college enrollment. The 3 actions aligned to this are implementation of AVID across the curriculum. All our teachers are trained in AVID, and also teach an AVID class. So students are in AVID from 9 through 12. There are textbook costs and things associated to that. Our goals, looking after the summer AVID conference, it looks like we'll be able to be an AVID demonstration school within the next 2 years or so because of our college connections. Yeah, so that's a goal. Including college courses is an integral part of student schedules. We've already started talking with the approval of the MOU last night. We've already started talking about creating pathways and how many students we need to be able to sort of not dictate but request courses from the college. If we have a minimum of 22 students that would all like to take the same course, we can say, can you offer this here instead of at the main campus? And so that will help us kind of create those pathways that we're looking for. And implementing blended integrated project-based learning. We're using Fuel Ed. Our teachers and myself are learning from the Middle College National Consortium and kind of getting resources from them slowly but surely, figuring out what this middle college piece means. And of course, the learning that's involved with our staff as far as interactive, true blended learning, not just laptops and changing the way we lecture, if that makes sense. Goal number 2. Washington Middle College High School will foster relationships with all stakeholders, including parents, guardians, students, Sacramento City College, staff, and community members in support of student achievement. The first action for us is to create an advisory committee that consists of all the people that I just mentioned. This will help us kind of move forward, making sure that we are serving the needs of the community and doing it in a way that's appropriate for all of the stakeholders. Implementing communication processes using the new Aries communication tool, social media accounts, and other tools. Developing and implementing student-driven marketing plan. We're looking at outreach to schools as kind of the first piece, some branding, participation at community events. As I learn more about the community, Yorgos has been very helpful too with suggesting things that it might be appropriate to get the word out. It was the Kinders Go to College was one of the events that I went to over the summer. Had a table there, starting them young, right? So those kinds of things. Goal number 3, Washington Middle College High School students will attend a school that is safe, secure, healthy, nurturing, and supportive to ensure each student's full engagement and success in high school, college, careers, and life. So this is really about engagement. With a smaller school, we have less issues with regards to negative culture pieces, but we do want to maintain engagement. When I started in April, that was one of the things that I noticed was that while we were serving the students kind of with the college piece, the school environment itself was not conducive to productive learning. So there are a couple of ways we're going to do that with the weekly seminar class. Every Friday, we have an hour-and-a-half seminar that's connected to the AVID class that will include specific AVID Socratic seminars, college progress checks to make sure that each week we're checking in to see how the students are doing in their college classes. And then that's also when we would have our speakers come in. That's part of the AVID program. They have regular speakers that come from the community and various colleges. Backing up with that seminar class is an hour-and-a-half creation and innovation lab. And think of this as kind of the time when things are built. And they don't necessarily need to be physical things. We're toying with several ideas, not only extensions of the 4-day week from our regular curricular classes, but projects like a yearbook. We don't have a yearbook class, but if a student wants to look into some journalism and create something like that, that would be the place to do that. We're looking at doing some Lego robotics as an option, creating companies, entrepreneurship, things like that. So structured but open, if that makes sense, allowing the student to choose what they want to do, but giving them a timeline and due dates and helping them through that process. And then the third thing is to model Sacramento City College and other current trends in higher and secondary education. We're not going to have bells. We'd like to turn the cafeteria into a cyber cafe type of deal. One of the things that we talked about was administrative stations in the office. If you go to a college, you've got college students working in the office. We do this at River City as well. You have your TAs working, but really establishing those and making clear that this is preparing you for a job and for college. And then, of course, the college swag and making sure that those are the incentives and the things that we're giving to students to kind of help them feel like they're already at the college. If that makes sense. That's all I've got. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Okay. I'll just add that, this is very exciting. And so as you think about these things, and I love the Creation Innovation Lab and that possibly a demonstration site for AVID. So I hope that there might be some vertical articulation down the road, as you grow this with 8th grade and, with what's happening there too.
Right.
Because it sounds like you're doing great things and we don't want you to be in a silo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. So there's no other discussion, so I will close that public hearing. And we are on action items. We're on Q1, approval of response to 2016-2017 Yolo County Grand Jury Report. Are Yolo County schools in compliance with the safety plans? Superintendent Linda Luna, and then I will have a public comment on this as well.
Thank you, President Kirby Gonzalez and Board of Trustees. For the 16-17 school year, the Yolo County Grand Jury studied one question. And the question they focused on this past year was, are Yolo County school districts in compliance with their respective safety plans? So that was their focus for this past year. The Yolo County Grand Jury came to visit Yolo High School, actually, with an unannounced visit as part of their study. And so as they approached one of our schools, they were able to observe as a public visitor what they were looking for is the access to the campus, just the safety observation of any strangers or how our students are protected inside of the campus. And so upon hearing that our visitors are from the grand jury, our Director of Student Support Services, Jerry Smith, immediately went to go and collaborate with anything that the grand jury needed. I wanted to give a shout out to Jerry Smith because it was Jerry who was able to explain what the safety plans really mean to schools, what it means from a teacher's lens and a principal's lens, and also what his responsibilities are in overseeing them and ensuring that we meet the proper deadlines. What you have here in front of you in your board packet is a copy of the actual report from the grand jury itself and their findings. And from those findings, they make recommendations. Each school district in Yolo County, including the County Office of Education, is required to respond to the grand jury's report, specifically addressing whether we agree, disagree, or partially agree with the findings that the grand jury has concluded as a whole in regards to our safety plans. In addition, we are also required to address the recommendations that the grand jury is making to provide a more safe environment for our students. So what I would like to do, you have a copy of the drafted letter here that will be sent to the Honorable David W. Reed and also the foreperson of the grand jury for last school year, who is Henry M. Rivera Benavides. The areas specifically for Washington Unified that I'd like to just draw the board's attention to, because in a nutshell, Washington Unified comes out as the exemplar in Yolo County, and we're very grateful for that. But it didn't happen by accident. It happened because we've had to put lots of systems in place, and that school safety is truly a number one priority, and it's a constant work in motion. So in terms of Washington Unified responding to the findings, we agree essentially with pretty much all of the findings of the grand jury with the following exceptions. So if you'll, I'll bring your focus to F5 for finding number 5. We do agree that there are some campuses that are not restricted by fencing. We do agree that gates at some campuses are not secured during school hours because not all gates have panic bars to exit from the inside without a key. Now, that doesn't mean that we're out of compliance. It means that we are in compliance. It's just that through the construction and the bond, as things get put in place, as more gates or gates get changed out, then we change through into one of those kinds of gates where we're able to exit immediately from the inside to the out without the outside having full access. So that's what they call those panic bars that you've seen. So what they found was across the entire county that there were many schools and other districts that did not have those kinds of fencing, not even fencing around their schools. So we agree that we still are working on that in our district. Finding number 6, we disagree with their findings that they found overall because it included other schools in Yolo County. We disagree because visitors to campuses are properly instructed to safety procedures to be followed. In other words, when you come to Washington Unified School, we have the proper protocols and procedures in place with a one-way access in to the front office. This year, we're adding additional measures in requiring not just our employees to wear badges this year, but we're also going to have all of our cleared volunteers have an actual WUSD badge as well. So people will be able to see who is really authorized to be on the campus. Visitors, one-time visitors, will also have special badges as well, and so it will be identified accordingly. Finding number 7 from the grand jury, we disagree with their overall finding because in Washington Unified, students are made aware of the importance of the safety plan compliance and their role in assuring a safe school environment, meaning we do monthly drills. And that's how our students are made aware of what kind of drills are put in place and why those specific drills and codes are put in place. Are they perfect? That's why we do them every month, so that we're in a practice every single month. But we do that on a consistent basis. Finding number 8 of the grand jury, we disagree partially, and partially because access is allowed only to the front office area of all of our campuses. In other words, that's a requirement. Most of our elementary schools have only one access in, and that's to that front area. Everything else is gated and locked. What we have, though, at River City High School is multiple accesses. And at River City High School, we do not have those panic bars in place where the public can't get in on the outside, but our employees should be able to just exit out without a key. And that's why we disagree partially on that, because our fencing does exist. However, we don't want to lock those gates so that people cannot get out should an emergency occur. In terms of recommendations, the only one that I would bring to the board's attention, because we do agree in terms of the recommendations of the grand jury, we agree in that we are already implementing them, okay? But however, on recommendation 5, it does require further analysis. For the grand jury is calling for all school districts by October 1st to have adult monitors where the fencing and gates are during instruction. So even if the kids are not outside playing, if the kids are inside classrooms, the grand jury report suggests and recommends that by October 1st, we have adult monitors visible outside at all gates and fences. So with the board's approval and blessing on that, we would like to respond that we require further analysis of that, because that's a financial burden on any school district, not just our school district. I think what has been found is that we are very fortunate that the district has kept in place campus security monitors and even crossing guards that are our actual employees. Perhaps some other school districts may not be as fortunate to have campus security people. So with that, what we'd like to do is bring this drafted letter response to the board so that we meet our timeline within 60 days of receipt of this. And this became public on July 1st. That if the board is satisfied with the following responses and how we follow up, we would then send this to the Honorable David W. Reed and the Yolo County Grand Jury.
Okay, we have a public comment, so I'm going to go there now, and that is Don Stoffer.
Hello again. I'd just like to comment on a few of the grand jury items. F6, in my experience, it doesn't appear that visitors are universally following the procedures, and oftentimes you can find variances at that. And I especially am made aware of it when I find, an angry parent has visited a teacher's room, apparently with not visiting the office, and happens multiple times a year. And the high school we know is an issue, and I'm heartened, especially with the bonding fundings in good shape, that we'll be able to get that one taken care of soon. F7, I guess I read this a little differently than the superintendent. I got stuck on the phrase student role in assuring a safe school environment. And I was thinking, more active, what are students being made aware of that they should look for in the school environment, and then be proactive about in terms of safety? Are students instructed to keep an eye on possible intrusions and then report those to adults? Because if that's the way I interpreted this comment, and that is not happening. It is true that there's good drill practice across the district, and if you were to go in a month after the students have been in campus for a while and say, well, where do you go in case of a fire? I bet you could ask any student that tell you, well, my spot's over here. And so that is good. The only other thing I want to mention, some of the security fencing at Riverbank bothers me because it's only waist high. And I know I have entered that campus by walking to the security fencing, reaching over and pushing the crash bar, and then opening the gate and then entering. And on the other campuses, it's all 6 foot high, so you either have to be a very tall individual or climb over the fence to gain entry. And so those are the comments I want to make. Thank you.
I guess my only question would be is, say we agree to this draft with the disagreements of F6, 7, partial 8, and R5. What is the repercussions of those disagreements? What will the grand jury likely come back with?
Well, actually, the grand jury found that we are in compliance with all of those. It was other school districts that did not follow those particular things. In other words, there are some school districts with schools that have absolutely no fencing around them. And so we, in order to do that for Washington Unified, we disagree because all of our schools do have fencing around them in some manner. So the disagreement isn't that we disagree with the Yolo County grand jury, not with their findings, but we are just saying that for Washington Unified, we disagree that because we do have our fencing in place. So, because they're making broad statements overall of
Right.
findings.
Of Yolo County.
Oh, of Yolo County. Okay, so not
This
specifically of our school
no.
district, because I remember
Right.
reading the thing that they
That
said
we
we
were
are the role
exemplary.
models.
Yes.
Which we're gonna hold everybody else up to,
Exactly.
but
Right.
this didn't seem to suggest that. So.
Right, and so they're saying overall, including all 5 school districts, plus the Yolo County Office of Education. And so that's why it is appropriate for us to respond that we do have this in place, therefore we disagree.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's a very good question and catch on that.
I have a question over at River City, the back gates, the side gates, the smaller door gates, are those required to be closed during school? Because
What we are committed to is having all gates closed during the school, during the instructional time. We want them closed. And we want them closed so that we don't have people entering the campuses from all different directions and only enter through the front. So whenever we know that they are left open, perhaps, by accident, or maybe somebody came through and forgot to close it, we have our campus security monitors and we want them to make sure that our gates are closed.
Because as many people know, I go on that campus an awful lot, even sometimes for Saturday events. And those gates are always wide open, and it always concerned me, even during the school instruction. I've stopped by and I just park in the back and walk inside because it's wide open. So that is concerning, and when we're talking about disagreeing about safety procedures and stuff, you know, common sense, and especially in the morning, if you ever been to River City, the rec center cones off, so you can't even get in that first entrance,
Right.
drop off the kids. So I think there's a lot of access, especially in the morning. You don't know who's going to go on that campus. I mean, common sense would be come into the office and check, but it is concerning. That's a large campus, and in the R5 requiring us to have people at all, that would cause us a great deal of funding problems.
Yes, it would.
And I think safety also, if you have one person at each gate manning and something happens and it's one-on-one, we're putting our employees at a disadvantage too. So I just wanted to bring that up. I also wanted to bring, it's probably neither here nor there, but I am very familiar with David Reed. I don't think it's a conflict because I'm signing it, but I've worked with him and I know him, so
Okay,
I'm just
thank you.
putting that out there, but there's no conflicts, there's no financial gain or loss.
Thank you for that feedback, and we will definitely get that feedback straight to River City in terms of, because that's about talking with the employees, about making sure that they're keeping their eye on that. And we have to open the gates, of course, to let everybody come into school, but once school starts, all gates should be closed. All gates should be closed. And what I want to also clarify is in terms of the finding of F6, about visitors to campus, the statement is that they are properly instructed to the safety procedures, of which every family member is, every adult that is connected to our school district. Now, whether they follow those procedures is a different story, but my interpretation of this statement is that we are actually telling the public what our procedure is, and that's why for Washington Unified, we have signage, our principals have that in their school handbooks, we go through that in our parent meetings, family meetings, school meetings, parent conferences. So my interpretation is that they are actually instructed, they know whether they follow that or not is a different statement than I believe is what is written there.
Just one question. Linda, Dawn mentioned over at, where was it,
Riverbank.
Riverbank, right, that the gates are really low. Under our funds, Measure B, is that going to be addressed? I mean, are they going to be?
As soon as he said it, it's on my mind, and we will follow up, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll figure that out, yes, and get back to the board if that's in the plans. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, actually, we need to approve, though, the letter. Sorry.
I move to approve.
Thank you. So we have, the motion was made by Trustee Wong. It was seconded by Board Trustee Akala, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I too say aye. So that takes us to L2, approval of employment of certificated employees with general limited assignments, permits, and provisional intern permits. Michael Reed, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Good evening to the board. This evening, I'm coming to request approval of item Q2, acknowledging receipt of notification of employment of certificated employees with general limited assignment permits and provisional intern permits. This is a required action by the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. The board must be publicly notified when certain employees are brought on a provisional intern permit or a PIP, or a general education multiple and single subject limited assignment teaching permit known as a GLAP. These permits are only renewed by the CCTC, or the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, the following year if the candidate can prove that they have continued their education towards a full credential. So also in the board packet is a list of those employees that we're talking about. I just want to call out that the three folks that we're bringing on to work in our special education classrooms, all three have teaching credentials and are currently seeking to work in a special education environment. So that's why they are working under a PIP. The one teacher we have brought that's continuing with us as an intern is been working as a music teacher for us and is very well liked and is doing a great job and is going to be wrapping up his internship this year. And then the 3 teachers that are being brought in under a GLAP are going to be working in as mathematics teachers. All are credentialed teachers. All 3 have 6 or more years of teaching experience and are seeking to fill these roles of much-needed spots in our district, actually just even statewide in mathematics positions. I would also anticipate that I'll be bringing another transmittal to you as we wrap up the last hires this week. We've got at least a couple more folks that are going to fall under this this item.
Yeah, Board Vice President Posadi.
How long do the teachers have to get the credentials? I mean, they don't have an indefinite period of time of taking some continuing coursework,
Correct.
right?
So the GLAP, you've got 2 years, so we can renew it one time, and then but they still, in order to even renew it, and you've got to show that you're taking coursework towards it this year. So all 3 of them have committed to that, but quite frankly, if they were to take a different path and we had openings for them, all 3 of these teachers could qualify to work in a multiple subject setting as well.
Okay.
So we'll kind of assess them as we go. We'd like them to stick with the math for obvious reasons. It's hard to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, looks great. And no other questions, so can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Board Vice President Posadi, seconded by Board Trustee Cruz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That takes us to Q3, Washington Middle, oh, nope, where are we? Sorry. Yeah, Washington Middle College High School Educator Effectiveness Grant with Dr. Parsons, Assistant Superintendent Educational Services. Thank you.
Good evening again. On the July 13th, the board had a public hearing where we talked about the 2 areas where the Washington Middle College High School Educator Effectiveness Grant would be spent. Tonight, we are asking the board's approval.
I move to approve.
Okay, well, I have a public comment. So Don Stoffer.
Oh, 4.
Says
On 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I started teaching today, and I got no sleep the night before because I was so excited for my wonderful students. So, all right, I do not have a public comment right now. I have a motion made by Board Trustee Wong, seconded by Board Trustee Board Vice President Posadi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye.
Thank you.
Sorry, checked marked that one too soon, but now I will have a public comment for this one in just a minute. So Bright Phase 2, and this is the 21st Century Collaborative Design. Again, Dr. Parsons.
Yes, at the July 13th, we had the architects, and I provide the board with where we are right now, going from schematic to construction. As soon as I do a few slides here, I would ask for approval to move from schematic to construction. However, during the last meeting, there were some questions and some feedback, so I just wanted to go over that briefly. Just as a reminder, this is a 21st Century Collaborative Design Learning Space, which is flexible, collaborative, opportunities for creative expression, technology integration, hands-on learning, and the teacher as a facilitator. And as we discussed, as the board requested, we have a culinary and hospitality pathway, health occupations, agriculture and natural resources, dry science lab, wet science lab, core academics, 21st Century Collaborative Design, Engineering and Architecture, and Manufacturing Design Construction. We have many pathways to support our students. Some of the questions that were asked, one was a garden roof.
Well.
And we love that idea. And we actually looked at it, we talked to the architects, however, the cost is prohibitive on that. However, we do have, actually right now, we're laying the concrete for a new greenhouse with aquaponics which is in process right now. Secondly, you asked for skylights, and we thought that was a great idea as well. However, because of the infrastructure of the current buildings, that too would be cost prohibitive. But what we are going to do, so thank you for that feedback, is as you may remember, we have covered walkways. Well, above the covered walkways on the buildings, we will have windows at that level, which is very high, to let in a lot of natural light in both wings, and so we're excited about that, adding that component. Secondly, we talk about flexible teacher station and labs. The teacher, and we totally agree with that as well, the teacher station will be removed from the dry lab. However, in the wet lab, we need that to be fixed because it does have gas and water for demonstrations. And so for the wet lab, we will continue to have the station that will be stationary. Drop-down power versus on the ground. We talked to the architects about it, and again, it is less expensive and less obtrusive to have it drop down as requested by teachers. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking it up there when I started talking about this, but it was actually the teachers that requested to have it be dropped down versus up from the floor. So that was through teacher feedback, but then looking at it as well, it is cost prohibitive because if we ever want to change it, we have to move it from the ground. It's easier to have it on top in the roof where you can move the power. Unisex bathrooms. We will have 2 unisex bathrooms near the teaching wings and 2 in the adult building. So we were having those types of bathrooms anyway, but they were for staff primarily. We aren't putting staff signs on there. They will be, it will be used by both our adults and our students. Desire to have paper towels in the bathroom, and we will do that. So we are putting paper towels in the bathrooms. And that was the feedback that we wrote down from the last board meeting, so I appreciate all the feedback. And after the public comment, if there are any other questions, we hope the board will approve us so we can move towards construction. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Don Stoffer.
Thank you for the changes that have been made so far. I would still like to urge that the teaching station in the wet lab also be eliminated. It's perfectly reasonable to have gas and water on the perimeter lab stations. And again, a wet station in the room itself takes away the usable space for teaching and student activity, and that's why I would suggest that. And it's perfectly adequate to do demonstrations from side lab tables, which is what I do in my labs.
Can I ask if River City labs are on the side or if they're in, what the structure of their labs are? What is the structure of your current lab?
We have perimeter labs, stations, student lab stations all around the classroom, and at the front of the classroom is a large demonstration table, permanent.
Okay. Are there any comments about that? Okay. It might, from my perspective, it might be nice to have one more conversation, maybe just with some of the science teachers. I'm supportive of moving forward with this and approving it, but with having maybe another side conversation about the possibility of needing that lab in the middle or not. Okay. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so the motion was made by Vice President Pizzotti, seconded by Board Trustee Akala. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That takes us to the Local Control Accountability Plan, Amendment Number 1 with Scott Landsberger, Assistant Superintendent.
Hi again. So in June, you guys approved the LCAP in your budget that you're moving forward with on this year. And as you know, that gets rolled up to the County Office of Ed, and they do a very technical review of the LCAP. And they came back and they had 4 revisions that they asked that we make to our LCAP, and they all have to do with numbers and how numbers were presented and changes that happened in between the draft budget that we brought to you and the final budget that you approved at the end of June. So I'm going to go through them really quick. I think it's really important to understand that as you go through these technical changes, nothing changes in your budget. As you see these numbers, your overall budget didn't change. It was just matching things up in between the two documents. They were misaligned. So the first thing that came up is the total general fund expenditures and the way we calculate them. We had in the original LCAP $81,552,000, and when you look at your Form 1 and the different components that make up the total expenditures, it's actually $81,884,000. So we're just aligning the LCAP document to be what is in your actual budget Form 1. Second technical revision is as we move through, remember we had Exhibit Exhibit C that showed all of the different costs for the LCAP action items under each goal. We had that calculated $11.8 million. It comes out to be $12.021 million because in Exhibit C, we missed the 4 highlighted areas. The 2 highlighted areas in the very right column are grants that were actually in the restricted general fund, and they had been budgeted in the restricted general fund. They were listed in the LCAP, but they were not listed on this particular tracking document, so we've updated them. And then the other 2 changes were to item 1.3. We had $3,800 in our crosswalk document. It's actually $3,100, so it was an $700 variance. And then item 3.1, we had it as $464,600, and it's actually $464,400. So we actually have the general fund expenditures. When you line up the LCAP and the budget in this particular document, it dropped by $300. Technical revision number 3, the way the LCAP is set up is they take your total expenses, they take the LCAP expenses out and say, what is the rest of the money that you're spending? Well, since those numbers changed, all of these numbers have to change as well. So they're done proportionally as far as these are your major objects. So we just updated those so that those numbers would match with the changes that were made in the first 2 technical revisions. And the fourth one was a transposition error. On page 133, it asks about the minimum proportional percentage. It's 15.81%. And in the text document, the highlighted area in the original LCAP, we had it as 15.18. So we transposed the number. So transpose it back because it is 15.81, and that's the number that we've been using the whole time. So those are the 4 technical revisions. They asked us to bring it back to you to make sure that you guys were aware of it. If you guys had no concerns with it and approve the technical revisions, the amendment to the LCAP, it goes forward, and we expect them to give an approval to your budget and your LCAP for the 17-18 year.
Any questions?
That's in the record, Scott.
Okay. Do I have a motion
I
to?
got one more to go.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Q5, is there a second? Okay, motion made by Vice President Pizzotti, seconded by Board Trustee Wong. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. So Q6, approval of the 2017-2018 Washington Unified School District 45-day revised budget.
So again, in June, when we got you to approve the budget, we already knew that we were going to have to come back in 45 days because what had been sent to the governor, if he signed it, was going to give additional monies. So here is your 45-day budget revision. Really simple, the changes that you saw in the unrestricted general fund, $30,000 less in LCAP funding, $30,000 less in LCFF funding, and it has to do with a gap percentage change. I'll show that to you. $1,008,915, that is your one-time money that you got under the proposal that was signed. So your net change to the unrestricted general fund is $977,000. We also made adjustments to the charter fund, Fund 9, for the same reasons, and plus we had an adjustment to their EPA calculation, but it's all a result of the change in that percentage plus the one-time money. And then Child Development Fund 12 got an additional amount of money as far as a reimbursement rate per student, so that gave that fund about $113,000. So what it looks like, and the biggest change is that 43.19% at the the time that you approved your budget, it was 43.97%. And really what this change is this change is across the board how they help pay for part of the one-time money, and they made some adjustments in being at their 97%. They're just a little bit below the 97% now. That's where the $30,000 comes from. I rounded it to 31 on this slide, is a change from 43.97% funding gap to 43.19. Here is your change to ending fund balances. You got $1 million more, so we brought to you a budget that had a $2.4 million deficit, primarily attributable to the textbook adoption. You have $1 million more, it's a $1.4 million reduction. Then we proportionally take that $1 million and spread it to the components of ending fund balance. And as I was putting this together, I realized that the components of ending fund balance in the revision don't line up with the components of ending fund balance that we had when you adopted the budget in June. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out what happened, because they should theoretically be going up because of the $1 million. When we brought this forward to you in June, there's a spreadsheet that we use that calculates everything. It does this proportional percentage. You'll notice there's an undesignated, unappropriated amount in the estimated actuals for 16-17. That threw off the percentages on the bottom because it's not included in the proportional share that we used to roll forward for your budget that you approved. When you actually run all of it in the estimated actuals and do a proportional share for the entire ending fund balance, it changes the percentages, as you'll see. For the set aside for one-to-one devices, it went from 21% of the undesignated amount to 17, which is why you saw that amount go down, but the overall number went up by $1 million. That makes sense? Okay. We can come back and ask questions on that, because it took me a couple hours to figure out what happened in the first place. 3-year forecast. Changes just a little bit. You guys are in a good place. As we had talked about before, you see in the current year you're expected to have a $1.4 million deficit, primarily attributable to one-time expenses. So I consider us to have a structurally balanced budget at this time. As we roll forward into 18-19 and 19-20, we're using 100% of the DOF assumptions for gap funding, which gives you an additional $2.4 million in 18-19, $1.9 million in 19-20. Your expenses are rolling forward at 2%. They do not have any additional increases for future employee compensation, and they also assume, as you see in your multi-year projection, a reduction in expenditures in 18-19 that are ongoing of $500,000.
What's that attributable to?
That was as we came into the 17-18 year, we said we need to cut $2 million and then another $500,000 in the next year to run things forward. So that's still running through the multi-year projection. We'll continue to evaluate that depending on what happens with student enrollment. We think enrollment's going to be a little bit better than we were originally expecting. And we don't know what's going to happen with the state budget. We're assuming 100% of revenues are going to materialize, and they have for the last couple of years. But eventually, that tide's going to go against us. But that $500,000 has been seen in the multi-year projection since we said, okay, we're in a deficit budget and we have to correct it. And so we'll continue working on that, and then monitor through the interim reports. And then if we don't need to have a reduction in expenditures, I'll be the first one to say don't do it, because it's a tough thing to do. So the next steps, they're pretty simple. We'll finish closing the books for 16-17. We're almost done. It looks pretty good. It's going to be very much in line with what we presented in June as far as that ending fund balance. It's going to roll forward. We recommend an approval of your 45-day revise with a positive certification, because by the standards, you do qualify for positive certification under AB 1200. And we'll continue to monitor and bring back an interim reports and show you how the budget's developing for the next 3 years. Questions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Board Trustee Cruz, seconded by Board Vice President Pizzotti. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So that takes us, we had moved 2 items here. Trustee Cruz had asked that we vote separately on N3, approval of certificated HR recommendations. And with no comments, unless there are any, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And do I have a second? Okay, so the motion is made by Vice President Pizzotti, seconded by Board Trustee Wong. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. Any no?
I'm going to abstain due to personal conflict.
Okay, and Board Trustee Cruz abstains. We also moved N6, and I do have a public comment on this. This is approval of the memorandum of understanding with Stanford Harmony, and that is Don Stoffer.
Hello. I had a question on this particular item. It does appear that the program offered by Stanford Harmony is a really good one. But my concern was, given that all that the elementary teachers are doing this year, with brand-new ELA curriculum and a one-year-old math curriculum, how is this going to be rolled out? And will this be just another thing that's going to be a burden to them? Or is it going to be a pilot project with volunteers? It's just that's the kind of question I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you get Amber to maybe clarify that?
Can you clarify for that for us? Just the process by which this will, teachers will receive this training? You have 60 seconds before 10.
Thank you very much. This came out of a recommendation from President Kirby Gonzalez to Director Jerry Smith and myself to look into buddy programs to support positive behaviors, a safe place to send a student, and designated change of environments, and just to maximize social emotional learning throughout. So my staff and I reviewed several different programs considering cost, and most importantly to me is the burden that it would place on classroom teachers. And so Harmony is a free, research-based, and proven effective program that has very little demands placed on a classroom teacher. It's 10 to 15 minutes per week of students getting together and meeting buddies, different buddies. So it's not the same buddy all the time in the classroom. And there's conversation starters. For example, in a demonstration I saw, 2 students get together and the conversation is, if you could spend the day with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and what would you do? And it was literally a 3 to 5 minute conversation, but allows students to interact with other students. Currently, pending board approval, the implementation would be based on site leaders and their needs and the demands placed on their teachers. So principals could decide to pilot this with a teacher, a grade level, or go school-wide. And the training is all free as well.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
And students, I mean, the buddy programs and others I found to be really incredible for kids, and when done right are not a burden. And so thank you for that, and I have hope that it will be done
I'm
well.
going to make a motion to go beyond 10 o'clock.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, motion to go beyond 10 o'clock made by Vice President Pizzotti. Is there a second for that? This is our last item before board governance.
Second.
Okay. We can decide to forego board governance. I will use that as my carrot. So we have first, second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I too am aye. So your question being?
I found in most of our schools, including our high schools, a lot of teachers already practice this. Every other week or so, they switch groups, so they have to work with other students and meet other students. So I don't think it's maybe more of a tool than a requirement, because I think most of our school sites are already doing it, but, it's just an added tool.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Okay. So is there a motion to approve? This is N6, the MOU with Stanford Harmony.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion is made by Board Vice President Pizzotti, seconded by Board Trustee Cruz. All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. So maybe we can have a quick discussion if we want to stay with board governance tonight. It's very lengthy. We could possibly look just at maybe the homework policy, since we heard the homework piece tonight. So I'll just defer to my board colleagues if you want to go through the whole piece tonight, or if you maybe want to do one part of the policy on homework, look at it, and do the rest next meeting, or?
Most of it's technical except for the homework.
I had a question.
We were actually okay with almost all of the 6,000s, just Trustee Wong and I, so.
Yeah.
Homework's the one
Just
that
the
we
homework.
appreciate
Yeah.
discussion out, which we had discussion earlier. So I think we can go through it quickly unless.
Okay, and if we
Can I-
feel it's not going quickly, board,
And
yes.
I did have some questions, real quick, just
Yeah.
on the very first page. I noticed that, I know it's part of the education code, I noticed that Cesar Chavez was taken out. That was a holiday on the 31st. And then, and if it's taken out because we have to have so many instructional days, I understand that. However, on the second page, under district shall hold exercises, education code 37220, that sequence, there's no commemoration of Cesar Chavez Day.
What date, what page are you on?
This, on the, I'm sorry, 30 and then 31. So I just had some
Trustee
questions.
Akala, thank you for bringing that out, because the subcommittee for policy did discuss that. And the reason why it is taken out at this time is because in the contract language for our employees, Cesar Chavez holiday, though it is a state holiday, is not a designated holiday in our contracts.
What about commemoration, though? I mean, I've noticed that, there are all these other commemoration dates, but there are none for Cesar Chavez.
We're on page 30.
I'm sorry, page 31.
31, thank you. Let me just
And I think this is really
pull to
important.
that.
We've talked about, how important diversity is and for children in our district, to feel pride in their heritage and all. And Cesar Chavez is seen as a Latino leader, civil rights, et cetera. So I think it's really important that we recognize him. That's one of the reasons I'm a little concerned that there's not even a commemoration date for him, for that day on the 31st.
Thank you, Trustee Alcala, and we didn't even notice that, and so thank you for bringing that out. If it would please the board, it would be my professional and personal recommendation to add Cesar Chavez as part of that for the learning of all of our students and the teaching opportunities it brings.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you for bringing
So we
that
will
in.
add that into the language for the second read.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Perfect.
you.
Okay.
Okay, would you like to look at homework then?
You want us to go through them? Do you want
Yeah,
to
the
go
o-
through? We're going through all of them.
It's our decision if you want to go through all of them tonight or if you want to.
I mean, it'll be quick.
Okay,
outside
we'll go
the-
through it.
Yeah, it's
I
really.
just want to make sure we're all of sound mind, so apparently we are. So let's go through all of them.
Well, if I may ask the board, if I may make a suggestion to help expedite the process, because the board has had the policies and we provided a summary of review where the subcommittee members, trustees Pizzotti and trustees Wong, had already gone through the specific changes, and they're still highlighted for the board. We also still left in the red lettering, the language that was either stricken or added. So I'm wondering if it would help the board and if it would please the board if we would only address the ones such as like trustee Akala just had a question on, specific questions. The only thing that I would, the only policy that I would draw the attention to for the board is that on page 174, the school-sponsored trips, we are still having our legal counsel look at an appropriate policy and regulation on behalf of the district, and this has to do with trips abroad out of the country or out of state. And so our legal counsel is still working on that, and we will probably either do a first read at the next meeting or just wait until these policies are done. And then the second one that I would just mention is because of the Homework Policy Committee did an update to the board today that you might want to look at that today. Or if you've already are fine with it from the update, we can move on to a second read. So it's really the pleasure of the board.
I would like to discuss homework, and that was the only one on these.
Yeah.
But can I just ask quickly why the school-sponsored trip, why not go with, wouldn't CSBA language protect us from liability or not? Is there a reason why that's being looked at by legal counsel specifically?
It's being looked at by legal counsel because we want to make sure that it's very clear within our district. We need the definition of school-sponsored activity to PTO-sponsored activity. We have trips that are out of the country that teachers themselves sponsored by Taking Children, and it's during the summer, and we want to make sure that it's very clear regarding the district's liability, and also the parents' understanding of what is a school-sponsored activity and what is not.
Okay, because many of those are outside agencies that teachers work with, and they take liability. You know, I'm thinking of World Strides, or, you know, there's a bunch of. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so the homework policy on 178.
And we didn't have discussion knowing that.
Oh, you
it was
didn't?
gonna- No,
We did not.
knowing that it would be
Yeah.
presented to the board.
Okay.
So that, assuming that the discussion was had
Yeah.
there. So
Well,
we did not have full discussion on it.
No.
Right away when I read it, I would strike the Board of Ed, well, there's CSBA language on this also, which is not showing here, which I very much appreciate the work that everyone put into this, but the CSBA language, I think more aligns with at least the philosophy that I believe, because the beginning of this I do not agree with, and that is the Board of Education believes in academic excellence, which I do believe in, and that significant educational gains can be made by students through well-defined homework experiences. And I'm not opposed to homework, just like the research would say, but the research does not support significant educational gains. And so I certainly wouldn't want to say that the board believes that from my perspective.
So trustees, we apologize. We have a copy of the actual CSBA homework policy here. And so we should have included it so that you can do a comparison because it's such a drastic change. And so we apologize for that, but we wanted to make sure that you do have a copy of that. And as you can see, because it is so very different, it's pretty much all of CSBA policy has been stricken. And so if it would help the board, perhaps we do first read of the comparison of this particular policy at the next board meeting, so that you can have time to compare and contrast the language that CSBA has in place following the codes and recommendations, and then take a look at what the committee is also suggesting, and then maybe we can look at melding a little bit there.
Yeah, can I make a suggestion since it's just substantive, substantive kind of change with what the committee made? Can we actually, instead of just tack it on the end of kind of our agenda, can we actually move it as an agenda item up front if we decide to do that, to talk about the homework policy up front? So we can have so we can have fresh minds in talking about this.
Oh,
specific
to move it
policy.
early on, like
Yes.
on.
I brought that up with Linda earlier
Action
today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also soon be having our board special workshop where we'll be talking about being efficient in our meetings. So we can be at our best when we have these conversations. So yes, we will look at.
Okay,
I
would
think-
you like to move governance to the beginning
So, yeah.
of the next meeting?
That would be helpful.
But I don't want it to be before like an HR piece or, because we have people waiting for a long time. So we'll be in talks of when to move that up, but maybe
Okay.
so it's in a.
Yeah.
It's
Or
in a more
pull this
appropriate-
specific policy if that's helpful to have the
Yeah.
upfront.
For this
discussion.
piece, this one is, it's so different, and the time recommendation, I mean, I'm just really hung up on that, and I think it doesn't align with what people are saying and what research is saying, so.
And like I said, I agree with you on that, and especially since what the presentation said was not congruent with some of what their slides were saying. So, I also want to see the numbers that I asked for before looking more in depth at this in terms of what the teachers' responses were.
And in terms of 6,000 series, we're going to have to delay our first read of the trips anyways. So pulling.
That's correct,
Pulling
yes.
this out and maybe voting on the rest of it as a second
Yeah.
read and having a full discussion on this.
Yeah.
When we talk about trips as well. Might
Certainly.
be more efficient.
And we could certainly
Yeah.
do that.
I
pull the
agree.
first two.
Okay, so we will talk about that then for our future, and we'll all take this as our own homework assignment to be looking at before the next meeting.
Okay,
Thank
so just to be clear, we're going to move forward for a second read of Series 6000, taking out homework policy BP 6154, And also taking out the one policy our legal counsel's looking at, BP 6153, and not putting those two policies in as a second read.
Correct.
So that we have more time. Okay, very good.
And I can wait, but I have something for a future board governance. If you want me to wait, I can do it
Yeah.
under future board
Well, that's-
agendas, but it's a governance item, so whatever you prefer.
Well, we can go right to that and simultaneously right now with future board agenda item if you want to bring it up right now.
Well, because it's not on the agenda, I know we can't discuss it, but on our next board meeting, or it can be our special governance meeting, I'd like an update on the policy committee, clarification on public comments that are happening in those committees, because I understand there was a public comment made on an issue that was not policy. It was more of a school, how we
Oh,
name a school
yeah.
procedure, and the rest of the board was not there, so we did not get to hear the comments. So I'd like to know an update on when you have the policy subcommittee meetings. I'd like to get clarification on what public comments are going to be accepted because the rest of the board is not there. And also, I'd like clarification because I understand there was a request for an intern by some of the subcommittee folks. I don't know who, I don't know what, but I would like an update on that also because I don't know what kind of how they can get an intern without the rest of the board knowing, if that's a subcommittee thing that they can just do on their own. So I'd like to get clarification on both of those items. And this is my personal opinion, I really am not happy that public comments are being recruited. I understand this person was asked to come to the meeting and asked to specifically talk about a certain item, and I was not happy to hear that the rest of the board was not there to hear that comment. So I'd like clarification on restrictions of public comments to the policy subcommittee on our
Thank
next
you.
meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we had talked about the policy committee update as well as discussion on interns. This was a lengthy meeting. It didn't make it to this one, but absolutely it's on the radar to be on our meeting. And I'm not sure of time on our special board meeting, but looking at our future agenda, absolutely. Okay. And are there any other pieces for future agenda meetings? Okay. All right, we'll end it there then for right now. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. I will second it. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. Thank you.